entire generation of people. So I'm 29. You're also 29?
28.
You're 28.
But turning 29 soon in a couple of months.
Yeah, but people not like starting families and whatnot. Like, you know, and I feel like a lot of people say like, oh, we can't, or it's, you know, this generation or into this, you know, how could I have a kid in this world and all that kind of stuff. Like, who can buy a house? What do you think of that? How does that resonate with you?
You know, man, I actually try not to worry about it too much, and what I'm trying to do is basically just trying to, for me, I realized that the previous generation, of course, had a different time, and comparing yourselves to them is also not really, I think our time as a generation right now, it is unique as it is right now, and I understand that we always compare things with something and stuff, and I know that notion. I know that the houses are expensive and the family is all difficult and stuff. And again, they're comparing it to previous generation. Like, oh, look, like even our fathers would like, and I don't know how old was your family. Do you know when they had you? Like,
I think my parents were around 24, 25 when I was born. But my dad already had 2 kids before I was born too, so he started early. he was just like a machine gun, just like that old Temptation song, like Papa was a rolling stone kind of thing. But and then he had 2 more after me too, so yeah, he just kept on going. And I can't tell you, to be honest, if I even know all of my brothers and sisters from my dad.
So you see, and your mom, how old? She was approximately in that same range, right?
Yeah, she was 25, and I was her first child.
So you see, but the thing is that, like, again, that's why it's our like direct comparison, because they're literally the generation before it. Because then they are like born, I don't know, they're the 70s, I don't know, generation, or I guess mine's is 70s. My father is 71, and my mother is 76. Yours are like a bit older, or?
I think 70 and 71.
Yeah, dude, like we're exactly the same. So actually, your father was 24, like when he had you, but of course you said that he had others. But actually, my father already like was also 24 when he had me. You know, so you see, we compare it to that, but that was like still a very, very different time. I don't know, man. And of course, part of me wants to join on the suffering and be like, yeah, it's really hard and really, house is expensive, family is expensive, but it doesn't really help me because I still want those things. Like, and it doesn't help me to know that like, oh, the houses are expensive. Like, I'm super aware, and now I'm just like more modest. I don't know, more. I don't know how the generation before did it, but
yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I just think it's interesting. It's like this thing in our head. I recognize that there are differences in economies, and especially where you're from, the economy is a lot different than it was, say, 3-4 years ago. You know, so obviously things change over time. And when I was younger, like when I was like 22, 23, I think I would have said a lot of the same things, like, oh, you know, how could you ever, our generation's just never going to own a house, or our generation's never going to, you know, if I have kids and bring them into this crazy world, like what would it be like, and all that kind of thing. But then I think, you know, because you said just like one generation back, I think about like my great grandparents' generation, which same as yours, were in World War I and II, you know, and they didn't fucking make up excuses not to have kids. Granted, when they came back from the war, the economy went in a different way. They went through the Depression, like the Great Depression in America.
Yeah.
And then, you know, World War II, when they came back from World War II into, like, the economy was better in the 1950s and stuff, so it was more reasonable for a person to just be like, yeah, if you work hard, you know, have a pretty good job, you should be able to afford a home and, you know, have a few kids. And everyone kind of subscribed to that idea. But they weren't like the kind of people who made excuses not to do the things they wanted to do. They would think about things like, we're lucky to be alive, and we should work really, really, really hard to get where we want to be. And I feel like young people, I'm talking about people our age, you know, like our direct friends, and in many cases have this cloud over their head, like I'm just never gonna be able to do that, and it's like they just give up. So
yeah,
Like my cousin's the same age as me, and he just had a vasectomy. He's like, I'm just never gonna have kids.
Oh,
Like,
wow! Just on purpose like that.
Yeah, and I mean that's his choice. I'm not judging him for that, but I'm also like, what is your reasoning for it? Like, if your reasoning is, but you personally just don't want to have children ever.
Yeah.
That's one thing. But if it's like, if you have a fear in your head of like, oh well, what if I accidentally have a kid and they're born into this, crazy world that we live in and all that kind of stuff. It's like, it's never been better to be alive.
Yeah, dude.
Like, per capita, it's like
that's insane. You're so right, man. I agree with you with over there for sure. Like, one thing is like, okay, if we're comparing to previous generations, like, let's also compare their circumstances exactly. And I feel like that like they had to do it. Like, I don't know. For example, even right now, I'm thinking about my wife's sister. She's gonna have like her 4th kid, and is just thinking about basically how like she already had 3 kids basically, and a 4th one, and wait, I'm forgetting what was the point that I was trying to make with this.
It's okay.
Wait a sec. I'll come back to it. But yeah, what was I trying to say? That basically a couple of things, because I was agreeing with you there. So about the generations here, you have to compare the circumstances. And I don't know, for example, in the old times, like, you didn't have the hospital and the doctors looking after you. Like, there are stories, I don't know, even going to like 18th century, I don't know, even in the Russian Empire times, where they just basically had them like in the field, I don't know, and the people were living many, like, way less years as well, so it's like, I don't know, I feel like each generation is born in a unique time, and it's only comparable to that specific time frame and to that specific, generation. And right now in this time, it's like we have extremely like unique circumstances that others, like that even the guys before us, the 70s and even 80s guys didn't have that, So I feel like we're with you there on the same page, like that we agree with what's happening and do the best we can out of it, make the best out of it.
There's also like, I'm just gonna pick on my cousin because it's easy and he probably won't get mad at me. But we're talking about like a white dude living in America who's fairly wealthy, like has a good job and all that kind of stuff. And to make the decision, like, I'm never gonna be able to do those things. Whereas like you, like, one of the reasons why I like you so much is because you're like one of the most positive people I've ever seen, despite the circumstances you've had to deal with to get where you are now. We'll get into all that. But it's like, you are not making excuses, even though you have way more reasons to make excuses than most of the people who I know who would complain or be afraid. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I know completely. Like, that's what we were talking about with my brother also, that he also has friends and people, especially in the West. I also feel like this urge to kind of like complain about these things is also, it's, of course, we also have it in our third world countries too, but I also feel like it's a dominant thing to be living in a like developed country and be like complaining all the time, and like the house is insane and expensive. I don't know, like, for example, even we were just doing the calculation, and the kid, for example, is not really like that super expensive. It's more about, of course, like the diapers and stuff, I don't know, but it's more about emotional. It's more about being able to stay awake without any hours. It's more about like that rather than like the monetary and stuff. So I feel like, yeah, people just like come up, they think of opinions, and like they have opinions, and then they try to find agenda that fits that opinion, I don't know, and something like that.
Yeah. It's just it's like a mindset to me, and I said earlier, like, I was guilty of it. I was definitely like of that mindset, and then I just, I don't know if it's as I got older or just experiences that I had or something, but I just kind of woke up one day and I'm like, I don't want to keep saying that to myself. Like, just because I feel that way doesn't mean I can't do it. And I think that's something I've dealt with a lot in my life. Is I will have a really strong, maybe negative belief about like what is possible, and then I'll just decide one day, like, I don't want to be a slave to that belief, so I'm just gonna go try. I'm just gonna see if it's possible, and then if I fail, it's gonna hurt a lot, but at least I'll know, as opposed to just assuming before I even give it a chance. that I'll never be able to own a home, or I'll never be able to be a father, or I'll never be. So many people just to base level, like, I'll never be able to leave home. I have so many ties here, responsibilities, and all that kind of stuff. I broke that barrier early. I mean, I was 20 years old when I left home for good. I'm going to go out and see the world and all that stuff.
No, and I feel like that works so well with, like, I'm trying to understand the logic, I guess, of this universe in a way, because so far I've been, like, kind of analyzing everything I've been dreaming and wishing for, and I'm like, in a weird way, but, like, it's all kind of happening, like, it's all coming true, and the things that I dream about and want to happen, like, they slowly, but start to happen, and I'm like, oh my god, what is going on? And I just, like, came from trip to Chile. That's why I was remembering, this family of my wife and stuff. And basically, we were talking about we were talking about some theories. I don't know. And I don't know, what if, like, the universe kind of just, like, in its super strange ways, I don't know, works in a way like how you see it. I don't know. And if you say that something will not be possible, it will be like, hell yeah, like, that's impossible, And if you say something that is possible, and it's like unconditionally will support your decision, if there is a shitty one or a good one. I don't know. Like a thought.
There's that. I mean, there's a lot to that in terms of, like, spirituality, but, like, just the concept of manifesting your destiny, like, it's like that. The Secret. The book that Oprah Winfrey was selling and everybody, or there's even a documentary about it, but it's kind of woo-woo, silly, hippie sounding shit on the surface. Yeah. But I mean, the idea that if you just, believe in yourself or believe in what you want, and forget about whether it will happen because you believe it or not. Yeah. It's like, it's more likely to occur if you're open to it.
Yeah. And you do it, and you do something for it, because some people are, like, only thinking that they just have to think about it and just think really hard. Like, no. Like, okay, you think really hard on it, but then you also like do something towards it, like small steps, like every day. And I don't know, what the fuck is going on, but for me, it has been working. Like, I don't know. Like, again, maybe it's to be proven in the long term. I don't know. When I'm 60 years old, I'll let you know for sure.
We have this saying that's like, if someone says, like, I wish I had $1 million, right? But they're not doing anything to earn $1 million. They just, I wish I could win the lottery, that kind of shit. We would say, why don't you wish in one hand and shit in the other hand and see which one fills up faster? I don't think wishing is enough. I feel like you got to pursue. Like, yeah. What's your plan? What's your 10-year plan for $1 million?
Yeah. No, exactly. Because, I was thinking $1 million. So a millionaire is a person that makes $1 million a year. So it means they make like $100K per month, or roughly. That means that per week they're making like $25,000 or something like that, and then $25,000 divided, so $5,000 per day. I'm like, okay, so what can I do? So, I don't know, like, and then you start,
yeah.
but instead of like, so yeah, I agree with you. Also, we're with you on that same page, and that's what also unites us with you, Tyler. We're like dreamers. Also, like, we have like things we aspire for, and like big things and stuff. But we're also like doers, also, because there's dreamers and there's doers, and I'm glad we can be both, and kind of go towards it, and then we fuel like off of each other's. Like, for example, I'm right now fueled up by your success, that like you have made it, and now you're like going to that beautiful life that also I want to arrive to with all the humans. I think all the humans are here to, to have a good time, to live 70. I mean, ultimately, subconsciously, we all just want to be like 70, 80 years old, have a good life, have the family. Like, of course, some people have different things, but ultimately just a good life and stuff. And here you are, and we're the same age, and you're getting there, and that inspires me. And then like that, like, we work as a as a friend's inspiration. I don't know.
Yeah, man. So I guess we should talk about you a little bit. Can you kind of enlighten us, the audience, and everything? Like, what? So you're currently in like the London area, right?
Yes.
What was your journey? And we could take as long as you want for this, but like your journey to get to where you are now.
Oh my god, man, it's crazy. Like, if we are talking like, depends also in which aspect. So I don't know, for example, for me to be in in all of the aspects. Because there is like, for me, I differentiate like I feel like kind of not for ultimate happiness, but some of the points for me to be happy are that these 4 points. One is the partnership. Second, not like 1, 2, 3, 4, but like in overall, the 4 things is the partner, the job, the location, and the friends. I feel like your partner, your job, your location where you are, and your friends who you surround yourselves with, those are like the 4 fundamentals that like influence your world point of view and how you see things and your perception of stuff. So like at this point, I'm finally like arriving to the point where I'm like at all 4 of these aspects. Like basically some are like super covered and some are like getting covered, and it's like and it's been hell of a drive to come here because, yeah, like you mentioned, I'm from Ukraine, so I was born in this very small town and stuff, and I didn't even want to do like specifically music. What happened is that it just naturally came, and you have to navigate me here. There's too much ground to cover, Tyler. I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, you let's just start from the beginning. Like you were born in rural Ukraine, and then you grow up with a working class family, from what I understand, and
yeah,
eventually you develop an interest in music. So let's just start from there. Like what, like you originally thought a bunch of other things, but you arrived at I want to be a musician. How did that come about?
Hell yeah. So it was so the thing is that I grew up 1996 in Ukraine is like a very special time because it's like I'm kind of like a first post-Soviet Union generation, like truly post-Soviet Union, because I was born like right after it collapsed, and things have changed a lot. So before like 91 and then after 91. So basically one big thing that it was a big part of my life is like Western stuff. So like actually in the 2000s, so I was like 96, so I started watching TV, and then like let's say I started to be more conscious in like 2000s, and like in 2000s I saw like lots of American stuff. Like that was a big window, I guess, that opened because Soviet Union like had very strict you couldn't watch, I don't know, American movies just like that. So a big part of like my inspiration to like come also to like my creative being, I don't know, that I am now, is definitely like all of that media like that I was growing up. And then on top of that, my mom, she was a singer, like in a choir, very beautiful. She has like a beautiful soprano voice. Actually, I'm also kind of able to sing, so that's like probably from her or something. And then my grandma was like a accordion player, and so an element of like watching American movies, which got me really inspired. Like I remember seeing Marvel movies and listening to American music. A lot of it really I really grew up on like Green Day and like Blink-182 and Limp Bizkit and all of this like System of a Down, all of this stuff that like predominantly came from like US specifically. Like that music and all of that, and my family's background. And actually nobody from my family ever pushed me to do music, because in fact, in my family, on my father's side, and all the male guys are all militaries, so it's much more expected that you will be doing like a military, profession or something. So that is like what is more respected. Musicians are more like the guy that plays in the park. Like my father, for example, had I don't think had any clue. Also, you can do like sound engineering, and you can be in the studios, you can work post-production, pre-production. Like no, it's just that dude with the guitar in the park. And I don't know, man, it's like a combination of everything. And then I just was listening to, and I started with the guitar. So that was my thing. I started playing a guitar when I was like 12 years old. So I also started pretty late with my journey there. And then we happened to sign me up for a music school in 2009 or 2010 roughly, like just because the teacher didn't have time to like privately teach me because they knew that teacher. And anyways, like long story, I was enrolled in this music school, and so yeah, man. And then from there I just really did the music, like did the rock music, because that was really my first vision. My first vision was to have a band and was to play like as a lead singer in the band. And I had like 4 bands like in 2009 and 10 and 11. before I went to US for the first time, because that also changed my life a lot when I went there for the first time. And yeah, man, so it started with the bands, so I don't know, should I skip this part or should I go to the next one? What do you think?
No, you're good. Like, so I had a few different little tangents to go on just from there. So
yeah.
The first one is something that as an American, I find very interesting. Listening to what music from the States reaches other people, and it's different from different generations, but like specifically the stuff that you're citing, which is like Green Day and System of a Down. Like, first of all, we're the same generation, so I'm listening to a lot of the same stuff. Did it ever what I hear when people talk about, like, oh, I really admired American music, I really liked that kind of stuff. Did it ever click for you when you're hearing these songs that they're talking mad shit about America? Like System of a Down and Green Day specifically, like most of their music is literally like criticizing America,
that's
our
crazy,
government,
man.
our way of life, like, and then people hear that abroad and they're like, America is amazing, and there's part of it, it's like they're allowed to talk about their government and say bad things about them, and no one's shooting them, or what, so many elements in it.
That's cool. No, not really, man, because we didn't really care. That's one thing I have to say that up until this day, I don't really so much pay attention to, is the lyrics, man. For me, because it's so much more. And for me, the music is, I like to listen to the guitar rhythm. I like the drum. I like the kick of the drum. I like later, as I started to do more production, I started to notice even more things for me. So for me, the vocal is almost like this sprinkle, like a part of it. It's one of the melodies, and vocals are extremely important. But in terms of like the lyrics, no, I didn't know. Like now I'm re-listening to some of the stuff. I've been listening to Offspring also, like, and I know that there is a lot of like definitely criticism. I understand that, but I don't know if it necessarily changes my, like, I still enjoy that music even knowing that it's what it's about, kind of. I don't know.
I'll just really quickly here, the lyrics to American Idiot by Green Day is, I don't want to be an American idiot, don't want a nation under the new media. Can you hear the sound of hysteria, the subliminal mindfuck America? Welcome to a new kind of tension all across the alien nation, where everything isn't meant to be okay. And television dreams of tomorrow, we're not the ones who are meant to follow, for that's enough to argue. And it's so, like, I remember being a kid and hearing this out, because this was like, American Idiot was like the biggest rock album ever in, like, I don't know, 2004 or 5 or whatever. And I'm little, I'm like 10. This is like, I'm just now like, I'm gonna be a punk rocker, dude. I'm cool. Like, this is the kind of music I like. I'm not like all you other losers listening to country music and rap and stuff. I'm a rock and roll kid. And then, and these lyrics like had an impression on me. But I think I'm a lot more lyrical. Like, I had that discussion a lot with my wife because she's really into hip hop. And there's a lot of good stuff there. Don't get me wrong. There's some great, I have a Wu-Tang Clan tattoo on my arm. Like, I love hip hop. I love all kinds of music. But it's really easy to, like, on the surface, like, she'll be listening to something and, she's a lady, and some of the lyrics are like really, it could be interpreted very easily as super misogynistic, like they refer to women as bitches and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I get it. It's a cultural thing, and it's also, it's art. But I'm like, how can you, like, in good conscience listen to this man, like, talk about how all hoes is bitches and pouring, wine down your butt crack and, exploiting women in the club and being a literal pimp and a drug pusher. Yeah. And she's just like, I don't know. I don't pay attention to that stuff. It's just a cool song. And then for me, I'm like, I hear every word this person says, and I'm thinking, what do they mean by it? And so that might be a key difference there. But with Green Day, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If you had a point to make, that's cool.
No. I just wanted to add, on top of that I wanted to say that it definitely depends on what are you looking for in the music, in the song itself. Like, maybe your wife, she's like, she's listening to the music, for example, for the beat and for the flow, but then you are listening to music for the lyrics, and for example, somebody who is listening for the lyrics, and I will be like, okay, the guy is telling me like, oh, the lyrics are amazing. I'm like, which lyrics are you talking about? Like, the beat sucks. Like, what do you mean? The bass sucks. Like, I'll hear completely different things. I'm like, how can you listen to this? The lyrics is great, but the track sucks. And then, for example, for you, maybe it's the other way around. You're like, how can you listen to this music? Like, the lyrics suck, So it's all depends on, like, each person looks for, like, their own thing.
I want it all. I want everything about this song. Like, if I'm going to listen to music, if I'm going to pay money for a record, I want every bit of it to be amazing. I want, the 10 out of 10 music. So the lyrics have to be there, the singing's got to be there, and it doesn't have to be like the best singer in the world or whatever, but like it's got to add up to something great.
Yeah.
I want if you're putting together a rock band, right? I want the best drummer, the best bass player, the best guitar player, the best keyboard player, the best singer, the best lyrics, the best production value, all of it.
Wow. You're an ambitious listener for sure. That's insane. There are bands where only have one decent guitars, and that's all.
Yeah,
that's true. That's great.
I'm like, I would be listening to like a really, really good metal album, and then I'll be like, bass player kind of sucks. Like, dude, this is an amazing song. It's really heavy. I'm like, but the bass player is just hitting open notes the whole time. And then they're like, I don't even hear the bass. How do you not? I'm like, how do you not hear that? But I think that's like, it's anytime that you know how something works, like if you are a musician, you're going to hear things that other people don't hear. If you were a rapper, you're going to be more critical of another rapper than someone who's just a fan.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Yes, for sure. It's like the same as with like architecture, for example. Like, I always accept architecture as it is, but wait, like I was remembering, like, so Fernanda, my wife, she's like an architect, so it's like more critical. I'm like, wow, this is an amazing building. She's like, well, that's just kind of like these three things put together. It's not really that amazing, So it's like, I don't know. Well, I think it transfers to all forms of art, So that's the cool thing about them.
So moving along, so you're listening to all this like American music, you end up in music school, you're basically focusing on the guitar, and you have it in your mind you're going to be in a rock band or something like that.
For sure.
So did you start any bands? Did you have like a school band or like a group of buddies in the garage?
Yeah, dude, exactly that.
Me too.
You also had it? You also played?
Yeah, I was in a lot of different kind of iterations of rock bands mostly when I was like middle school and high school. I think I grew up kind of fast once I hit my 20s, and I didn't have as much time. I still played music with people, but it was not with the ambition of it being I won't say I gave up. I didn't have it in my mind that this is how I'm going to make a living anymore. I was just like, I just want to play music with my friends on the weekends, and have a good time.
I remember just now you sent me, I think, a video of you drumming, right?
Yeah, that's when that was like my weekend. We meet up once a week, literally, like that group of guys. This was in Monterey, California. And we were all in military school. We were all like learning different languages or whatever. And every, like, I don't know if it was like Friday or Saturday night, just that group of guys, we would meet up at this kind of club they had on the base. And there was an open mic. And we would just sit down for like 2 hours, learn or write one song, and then perform it once, and then come back the next week and do something completely different. That was like...
What? that's insane, man.
But it's just like it's a way better way to just get the music out of you rather than putting the pressure on yourself. Yeah. I have to make a living. I have to, like, I'm gonna be the guy on the tour bus and like all that kind of shit. Like I don't want that life. Yeah. The more I've traveled, I'm like, I really don't want that life. That's a hard way to make a living, man.
Yes. No, but that's cool. But then, wait, but you were allowed to use that open mic equipment to practice just like that, or I didn't understand?
Yeah. So it was like it's a military thing. So like essentially they know everyone's stressed out through training, exercise, whatever the hell. And so they would have like think about it like a youth club or like a church you have, just they have a drum set and they have a, microphone, a stage, maybe a couple of amps or whatever. We'd bring our guitars in, drumsticks or whatever. And then it's just something to do on the weekends, and we're slugging beers and, the whole.
That's cool, man. That's cool. That's awesome that you had that. And that was like at your disposal, like any weekend. You could use them.
Yeah. It was just at that rec center, recreation center kind of thing.
That's amazing. We had to pay 30 hryvnias. So at the time, that's the Ukrainian currency.
That's gonna be one of those things you say when you're like an old man talking to your grandchild, like, well, it costs 30 hryvnias. like grandpa's crazy. He's just, like,
It was 30 hryvnias, man. It was
Yeah.
it was to the garage guy, because like I went to the school, and to music school I went into the city. The city is called Zhytomyr. It's like kind of considered big city and stuff, but like in that small town where I was from, which was about 5 kilometers away, we had garages, and I had to pay to Nikolai. Koля is his name, and I had to give to Koля 30 hryvnias cash, and that would give us 1 hour and a half, I think, or something like this, in the garage, that we can be loud, because it was like a garage section, so you could be as loud as you want. You didn't have that issue that you had to be like quiet?
Oh, so that was later on in my life, like the band that you saw in that video. But as a kid, so this is a key difference, and I think especially talking to people from Europe and other places. So I didn't have this loudness issue in terms of like my parents don't want to hear it or my neighbors don't want to hear it, because we lived like on 5 acres of land. It was like a farm. Next to me on the left side of my house was an old lady with a lot of land, and then on the other side was a buffalo farm. So we would practice in the barn.
Okay.
Like my band, like all of my friends would come over, on Friday night, and then we would spend the entire weekend practicing in a barn, literally, like drum set in the middle of the place or whatever. And that was kind of like normal amongst people in our community. Like if I went somewhere else, it was like, we'll go out to the workshop or the barn, and that's where we can play, and mom doesn't have to hear the drum set.
That's cool, but that's amazing. Like for that other hand side, like also that you had that, like ours, it's interesting to draw these comparisons, because like mine was like in this small town. So the reason we were living in this small town is called Ozorna was because my father, he's a pilot, and he was basically given an apartment for free, like because he was a pilot in that town, and that town is like specifically built for like it's basically a military town, honestly, and the apartments were built, and it's a young one too, because in Ukraine everything is super ancient. In Russia, in Ukraine, in Belarus, and in all European lands, that, Tyler, like everything is fucking 1,000 years old and 500 years old. That also what makes all of our relationships so much more complicated. Like everything is super old and stuff and has lots of history. But my town was just from 1960s, and it was built in Soviet times, and it was always very practical. So it was actually very, very small. So I actually always had to like keep in mind the loudness. And then you on that hand side, like in 2001, 2005, you were in that barn, playing. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's just like, it's such a weird cultural difference. But we have this other saying that somebody told me, but it's like in America, 100 years is a long time, and Europe, 100 miles is a long way. Right.
Okay.
So like it's so funny. Like if you're in Denmark, right, and you're in Aalborg, and then you're like, you guys want to go to, I don't know, Copenhagen or whatever, and they're like, oh, all the way to Copenhagen. I'm like, dude, it's like a fucking 3-hour train ride. In America, we would just get in a pickup truck and make that drive in a day, and then come back home at the end of the day if we really wanted to. It's not that big a deal. But then if you tell an American, like, oh, this is a 100-year-old bar, like, wow, 100 years. And then I'll go to a fucking like Zurich, and it's like, this church was built before Christianity existed. Like, oh, like this church has been here since before Jesus died for our sins. Okay, awesome.
And you just
right, and like forget about Europe, like the Middle East, like there's some really ancient stuff.
Yeah, there is. I always wanted to visit. I always really wanted to visit that area, like Syria. So interesting. Everything's fucking 10,000 years old. That's insane. Like,
yeah,
and anyways, that's another thing that I'm thinking about. But yeah, what you were saying.
We can go on as many tangents as you want, but like, so for you, I remember reading, I think it was the biography of like the bass player for Korn.
And
And
I don't know. I don't know too much. I know the band, of course, and I know their songs. But yeah, what about him?
Well, I mean, just he was talking about how like how they would practice and stuff. So they grew up in like California, and not in like rural California, but in the city, like in like Los Angeles, San Francisco. And I would read about these guys, and they were talking same situation as you. Like you'd have to pay money for studio space or a place to practice, you know, and that was a cost you had to figure in. And I found that really weird first hearing about it. I was like, what? You had to like pay money for time and space to play your music? Like what? You know, there's so many things like that. Like just forget about what country you're from. Just like the difference between city life and like living in the country life. And that was one of them. Like, so like you have to pay money to like rent a space every time. So to me in my head, I'm like, that's like 10 times harder. Like for me, if I wanted to play music, it cost me, I need to buy the instrument and then, all right, barrier of entry broken. But for you, like you have to put in the extra. And not only, you know, especially the drummer, not only do you have to like have the money to buy the instruments that you need or whatever, but then you also can only practice when you're in the space where the instrument is and you're allowed to play it. And that just seems so much more difficult.
Whoa.
Like you have to try so much harder and care so much more than I did.
That's insane. But then you see, maybe because you kind of like, I don't know, I feel like we appreciate things that are tough to get. And maybe because it was so accessible and so easy, like maybe you didn't ponder your interest so much, you know? Like maybe, I don't know, I'm just theorizing over here. And then the corn guys, because they had to, it was so difficult and to find the fucking space. And you know, it's almost like that forbidden fruit is more desirable, you know? So the more difficult it is to rent that studio space, the more determined you are to get it, you know? And then like, I don't know, and that also inspires you like that.
Yeah.
Because in this, it's all about like the, how it's called, not the persistence, like, like persistency is like, regardless, no matter what the fuck is happening, like you still are like persistent, and that's like the only key, you know, is that consistent persistence. if that's if that exists.
Could be the name of your next album.
That's so cool. I should save that. Yeah, man. And so, you know, basically I was playing in these bands, and so I did a couple of bands. So we played. So first of all, in my so one kind of musical thing that you could say I did was a dancing school. So in this, but it was not so much about music. I mean, of course, it was a lot about music, but it was around dancing, and it was folk dancing, and that was in Zhytomyr. It's there's very cool videos online of these guys. And anyways, and the thing is that all my friends, all of a sudden, so I started like a guitar disease, because that was the summer of 2008. And I even remember specifically when I picked up that guitar, because I was so much into so interestingly, I was, two bands got me into music and one soundtrack. I mean, not got me into music, but of course other things got me into music and the movies and the music. And, okay, that's one side. But another side is also this game. So it's the Prince of Persia, the Warrior Within. That is the most badass soundtrack ever, like that got me so inspired that I really wanted to play those riffs live. Then it was, and actually how I discovered, and through Prince of Persia, I discovered Godsmack also. I think I told you that is like insanely influential. Like that's all my dark stuff is like very heavily influenced by like Godsmack and Prince of Persia. And now I'm trying to do something more with that sound, but basically in overall that's the roots. And on the other hand side, on the happy side, I actually had Switchfoot, which I didn't know in United States it was like a Christian band. I had no idea about, again, because I don't really listen to lyrics, I just really love them musically a lot. And their like first album, Legend of Chin, is just wow. It's then lots of inspirations over there. So those are like the guys that got me to pick it up. And that was the summer, and that was July, I think. And then I told my grandmother, you know, I want to play the guitar. Like, again, nobody ever told me to do it. I was in my dancing school and doing my regular school. That was my life until 2008. And then all of a sudden, I have that desire, like, okay, I want to learn to play. And they find me, man, this fucking old Soviet Union guitar from the basement, like from depths of I don't know, like they had to go really deep into the super old basement, all dusty, and they found this like 1975 guitar, like literally like 31, 2, 3, like something like 30 years old guitar. that is right, that is like ready to, like not ready to be played at all, but it has the body. But it was like the riff was really crooked, so kind of also remembering, like learning on it was really difficult. It was the first 2 months, and the string was too high up from the action height. It was too high up, and that was, I don't know, like maybe if I gotten a great instrument right away, like it would have been different, and I would have been more insane guitarist. But at the same time, like things happen how they happen, and that was a big part, like that Soviet guitar. And then everybody in my dancing school also really wanted to learn to play guitar because they learned that I started to play, and actually they were learning on this Soviet guitar. So I actually had a couple of friends learn on this Soviet guitar, and I still have it somewhere, and we changed it after like 4 months, but yeah, that's one snippet that I remembered.
Yeah,
about that.
I think like every group of teenage boys is going to have a percentage that are like, I want to learn how to play the guitar because it's like that's how I'm going to get girls to pay attention to me.
Yeah, probably also.
So,
yeah,
like, it was a big part of it. It was like, I remember, there was the same, kind of age group. There's just this explosion of people who all guys that want to play the guitar.
Yes,
not all guys, but there are girls too, but mostly boys. And my high school had so it was like the 9th grade year, they started a guitar class. So it was like in the room where like the classical band director would instruct. And the instructor was the classical band director, like the guy who was like the marching band and like symphonic band and all that kind of stuff. That guy was running this guitar class. The thing is, he was like a cornet player, which is like a trumpet, but he did not know how to play the guitar. He literally could not play the guitar. It was hilarious. Like he could like pick one up and like, fuck her, like, oh, this is a G chord, like, but he couldn't really play. And so it was like me and my friend Brett, and then like, I don't know, 30 other guys who didn't know how to play guitar. But Brett and I had both been playing for several years at that point. And so we basically just took over this dude's class. Like we just, instead of him teaching, we just started like, look, why don't you go fucking do what you really want to be doing? And like, that's planning the marching band's next football game or whatever. And we will just teach everyone here how to play the guitar.
I love it.
So it was basically like a free, like an hour and a half every day that we just were all basically jamming and, showing each other how to play different licks. That was another thing. And I'm curious how it was for you, because maybe you had a bit more classical training, but we didn't learn how to play like by reading music. We learned how to play by like memorizing songs. Like you'd hear like Metallica, and you'd like maybe read the tabs or watch a YouTube video if you had access to that. And then we would just like recreate what we heard over and over and over again in many different aspects, and then like sort of subliminally learned how the guitar worked by doing that.
Wow, man, that's very, very natural, I would say, and like sincerely, I don't know, passionate way to learn an instrument, man. That's cool. Like, that's cool that you, but then you didn't yet know how to play it, but you were kind of figuring out with the class altogether, right? And
I already knew how to play the guitar at this point. Like, I think I started when I was 11 or 12, and by this time I was like 14 or 15. So I had a couple of years under my belt as a guitar player. But I learned by, learning songs and then just recreating that, and to the point where I'm like, oh, I kind of know what I'm doing now. And then, people learn in different ways. Like, I think I'm more autodidact, where I do better when I teach myself how to do something through repetition than I do from like reading the instruction manual or having someone say like, okay, and here's the sheet music. I did do that too, but it was like trumpet, and I hated playing the trumpet so much.
What? That's crazy. I didn't know that. I'm finding out some new facts here. You also play the trumpet. You have some musical, in some universe, if there exists multiple universes, in one of them, you became a trumpet star, Like, I don't know.
I wanted to be a bass player more than anything. Like, I wanted to be like a bass player in a rock band. And then, but this interview's not about me. I'm just giving examples of like different ways people learn. So did you learn the guitar in a more classical sense, or like how did you pick up the instrument?
Yeah. So, well, there's two phases, I would put it, like to this to that summer of 2008. So July through September is when I was still. So the thing is that my grandmother, she loved Crimea. She was like really appreciating that place a lot, and also because of her health conditions, she needed the sea water, the Black Sea water, and because it has salt and stuff. So it was like very healthy for her. And every summer, every summer for the whole summer, she would take me with her to Crimea for like basically the whole summer, basically like June, July, August, and she will save. So she was making money, she was had several. Like she had one job that she was in music school. She was the accordionist, and she was teaching accordion, and then she was also in the kindergarten. So she had like her income streams, and then she was using her pension to just like go to this Crimea, to this trip, and so every summer, me and her and grandfather, so the three of us were traveling to Crimea, and basically like that until 2012, man. So that summer of 2008, I was, of course, in Crimea. That was the different thing, is that every summer we could go to a different place in Crimea. So I'm like pretty familiar with Crimea and overall and like that place, because I've been in many cities. And so it was in Feodosia, I remember that, which is like a city on the east. Okay, doesn't matter. And then for 2 months while I was there, I wasn't still home. I was just learning through guitar tabs. And I remember that like I learned Switchfoot song, let your love be stronger, which is like a very, very like emotional song. And then I learned which other one, and then of course I was learning the Prince of Persia riffs also. Like I really wanted to play them, and I learned about drop D. And then when my family saw that I'm actually like persistent with it, because the thing is that the instrument was really, really difficult to play, and then I was like 3 hours a day, like practicing by myself, like I was so super curious about it. And I'm just like playing the guitar tabs. Then they were like, hey, in Zhytomyr, which is like back in the north of Ukraine, we know a great guitarist who is a great guitarist, because he was he's my mother's student in college that grew up to like something, like some connection from those times, and then he could teach me how to play properly and like how to actually teach me in the classical way. So, and then he told me, dude, I cannot do private lessons for you because I'm too busy. And he said to my mom that I should be enrolled in the music school instead. So actually, there wasn't the plan that I'm in the music school. It was like, it had to happen because that was the only way I could have this teacher. So I actually consider myself very lucky, because this guy, he's really, really good. And he gave me like a very good, like classical guitar and jazz guitar, like basis and fundamentals, like the 3 years, like basically 2 years like that I've been like with him studying. So that was my curve, learning the classical, like all of this sheet music, all of that, music theory and solfeggio. That was really the only time that I had like a formal music education, was those 2 years. So that's where and I'm actually grateful for it, man, because I agree completely that you don't really need, for example, all this classical stuff to play, because anyways you're there to like, because when he asked me what do I want to play, of course I want to play fucking hard rock and alternative rock, and I want to play that. I don't want to play this like classical bullshit. Like, I mean, I'm beautiful music, but like for me as a kid it was like some classical boring shit versus like badass riffs, of AC/DC or something.
Yep.
But I'm like, maybe it's some, I don't know if it's conservative or something, but I do feel like a classical music background like actually really helps, like to later do your cool riffs, do your cool stuff, but like it's good to have as a base. Like I found it a cool experience. Okay, somewhere here I should stop because I'll just keep going.
No, it's like, it's really interesting, especially to hear it from from your point of view, because there's something about the purity of music that I find people argue about it, and they get really, especially musicians get really in their own head about it, where for me, for the longest time, like, and I did have the classical training that came from playing the trumpet, right? And being
you've been for some time doing that, or for how long?
That was from the 6th through 8th grade, so 3 consecutive years of playing the trumpet in like a concert band.
Damn, I didn't know. So you also had that classical, so keep going. So you also had that classical background.
So I understood how rudimentarily, like, and I'm talking, I did not pay attention in class. I hated it. Like I'm telling you, like I didn't learn a damn thing really, but I understood how like scales worked. Like this is a treble clef and this is a bass clef and this is the A scale and this is the B minor scale and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
So even though I did not learn to play the guitar from like reading sheet music or anything like that, I still understood like how music is supposed to sound. Like it's supposed to, when I play this note and then I play another note, okay, well, obviously those don't go together, right?
Yeah.
So
they say that it's like a very good for actually children, like just to do music, like not because they're gonna be musicians or something, but just for like, actually it's like good for your like brain or something, especially when you're a kid, like just to understand the scales and what sounds correct. And it's like the way the music waves, they influence, I don't know, it's like they influence your mindset and it kind of helps, I don't know, to think more clearly.
That's a really beautiful way of looking at it, and there's definitely an aspect of that. But if I'm being completely honest with you, it's like in like Nowheresville, rural Alabama, all people care about is football. Like college football is the biggest thing in the world, and the marching band plays at the halftime show of every football game. So it's like a big deal to be in the marching band, and that's like most of the, music program in school is kind of like they start you like when you're in the elementary school. So you're like in the 5th grade and you're about to go to middle school. The band director comes to the school and like shows everybody instruments and kind of picks people out. Like, you're going to be a drummer, you're going to be a trumpet player, you're going to be a French horn player, you're going to be a tuba. Nobody wants to be the fat kid with the tuba, right? But and it's all the girls are like, I want to play the flute and I want to play the clarinet and the oboe and it progresses from there. There were no stringed instruments. I remember like there's no violin in a marching band or concert band. All
right. Yeah.
Which was a little bit a letdown because I think that's what I would have gravitated towards is like string. Like maybe I could have been a cello player since I wanted to be a bass player, and that would have been more applicable to my pursuit. But yeah, so I ended up getting the trumpet, which was I wanted to be a drummer at least. So like that would be at least that's in a rock band.
I know. And you are a drummer too. Like, I mean, you do play also drums, and I remember that.
But what I realized early was that the system is not going to give me what I'm looking for here. I'm going to have to go buy a drum set and practice on my own time at my house. The school system's not going to reward my need to be in a rock band. They're not looking for that. They're looking for when I get to high school, someone to march with the stupid uniform on at every football game playing the trumpet.
Yeah,
that's what they want.
Right.
By the time I got to high school, I was just it was like if you want to be in the band at all, no matter what instrument you play, you have to be in the marching band. And that meant a lot of commitment. Like every summer you have to practice with the marching band, and all these weekends are taken up instead of being out partying with the boys. You got to be at the football game ready to do the halftime show. And I was just like, no, dude, I don't want to spend all my time doing this crap.
Dude, I understand you, dude. But that's the thing, that's like what I realized.
Yeah,
that's the price to pay, yes, you want to say?
No, I'm just laughing.
That's what I was just thinking, like that's exactly like that's the price to pay for them. It's almost like the way I see, for example, taxes is like taxes for me is just a way to pay to the government, like for being in this country. That's my rent, like my taxes is my rent that I pay to the country to live there. So like that's my payment, so the government doesn't touch me, just doesn't bother me. I just do my business, my work, and here is the taxes as my rental payment. Same way, like I see that they are teaching you all of this so that they also want something in return. Like that's why they're of course putting time into you, so that they can then put you exactly in that marching band and stuff. Like, but I can imagine how many parties like or hangouts you probably had to miss out on because of this.
Yeah, I just didn't want to do that, so I just didn't. And when I got to high school, I was like, I'm just quitting the band and I'm gonna start my own band. And then that's how, that's how I became like, all right, now I'm gonna be a a rock musician. So then that became, a bunch of fucking teenagers like playing in metal bands, and we didn't do anything good. It was just like, garage parties or house parties or like whatever, and just basically just drinking beer and playing guitar, smoking weed, whatever. Like,
nice. nice. That's awesome.
It's so from your end, what kinds of did you guys perform, like your bands? Did you have places to perform, or are there like?
So that's where a breaking point. So there was 2 years there from like 2008, then there was 2009, 2010, 2011. Like within those 3 years I was like playing, and we're trying different things. Like it was me and my friend, the two of us playing, some like me singing, him playing, both of us on guitar. Then we're like us and like somebody else. Then I had some, like we shuffled basically a couple of people around. My brother, he's a drummer. My younger brother, he started to learn drums, and we were also with him. So I had a couple of these things. And then the life-changing kind of break, I don't know, not break, but like big life change was when I was in Ukraine, and I actually win an exchange program to United States for like to go for 1 year to study in Oregon. I was like in Hillsboro High School. I was for 1 year, and that was 2012 to 2013. And that first of all happened because somebody very important came up in my life. This guy is actually, his name is Matthew. He's from Texas, and I'm like forever grateful to that guy because he was a Peace Corps volunteer in Ukraine in 2009. And in 2009, like that summer that I picked up the guitar, it was like a difficult time emotionally because my family was like going through some stuff, and then in 2009 my family like basically divorced, and then it was just me, my mom, and then my two younger brothers. And basically I was well, in the dancing school, actually, I started to make money. So when you're 15 or 14 or something, so I was like working already, and then I was doing the music and stuff. And then that same time, I met this guy, Matthew. And this guy, I'm like, he's from Dallas. He lives in Dallas. And this guy like changed my life, honestly, man, because yeah, he was like in Ukraine at that year, 2009, 2010. He actually, so I was listening. I told you how like a big part that I grew up on, like this American music and all of this. He actually introduced me like a very big chunk of it. Like if I knew already by that time, I don't know, the Green Day and whatever, and like the System of a Down and I don't know, and Godsmack, Switchfoot, whatever. Like he helped me to like, I got to know like Weezer. I remember I got to know I don't know, 21 Pilots. I didn't listen to them so much, but still like it's hard to remember, but a lot of bands like. And then he inspired me to like go for 1 year. To try to do this exchange program to go for 1 year to study. So those are like two separate stories, talking about this guy and then coming back to the music stuff. That, yeah, long story short, I win this program. There were 3 tours. It was really tough to do, but it was like, first tour was like a test, then second tour was within the 2 weeks, and then third tour was like an interview. Like, anyways, again, another story about how that went down, but ultimately I win it and I went to US. That's where I got like the closest to my dream, because I actually formed a band over there. Like, I mean, I formed them before, but it was just trying things out. But here we were like forming, like doing covers, and my bass player actually helped me to come up, and the band, it was called Almost Americans, because I'm like from Ukraine, but I'm like so inspired with all the themes. And then he was born in US, but like he's first generation, but his his mother and father are like from Mexico. And then the drummer, he doesn't count already because he already like second generation American, but his grandfather came from Germany. So we were like almost, well, pretty much all American, but like almost American. So, yeah. And we did like covers, man. Yeah, we did. There's one video recording online out there. It's a Blink-182 cover, Adam's song. Yeah. And it's like our very first time. So we did that, like, and that was a big one because, man, at the end of my high school year, we actually did like a solo concert. Like, people even paid money, like $10 we were charging people, just because we also had to pay a rent. I remember it was $130 was our rent for the venue, and the venue could fit like, I don't know, 20, maybe 30 people. Like it wasn't big, it was a small one, but we were able even to make some money. And then we had a 1 hour concert, like all covers, of course, all of those bands I mentioned above. And yeah, like, so that's like a story of that band.
Yeah, we would do like a party or like I don't know. One time we did like a wedding. Like the husband wanted a metal band at his wedding, so we set up like a stage in the garage, and we just played like Metallica, Slayer, that kind of shit the whole night. And
you were on vocals?
This band, I was the bass player and the vocalist.
I wish there was some recording, man. I would love to see it.
That particular band, I think there's one recording of, but it wasn't playing covers. It was like an original song that I wrote. But it was one of those things where nobody was a particularly great singer, but we could all sing. So it would be like, this song calls for AJ's voice, or this song calls for Tyler's voice, and we would kind of like, so me and the other guitar players would kind of like take turns at the microphone.
Yeah.
But we just put a shoebox out, and it was just like that.
What is that?
Just a box where you put shoes.
Shoebox, a literal shoebox.
Yeah, yeah. We just put it in front of us, and like people would come up and like either throw money in the box or like sneak, because we were all kids, or they'd sneak us a beer or whatever. And I remember eventually, like I think one of the adults like realized we had like red Solo cups of fucking booze on our amps and like kicked us out. So
no, really?
But we kept all the money. It wasn't much. It was, enough to buy another, 12-pack of beer or whatever.
That's cool, man. Yeah. That's cool memories. That's very cool. You also remember those. So you also had those cool memories. It's cool to have those memories. I love that.
Yeah, I wish I remembered more of it. No.
Oh, you were too much drinking. You were there.
I definitely burned a lot of 20s. My teenage years and 20s. My up until the last couple of years, maybe, like a lot of it is just a blur. I think it's going to be one of those things when I'm older and like they're like, what was it like? And I'm going to have a lot of stories, but I'm also going to be like, I wish I remembered more of it. Like there's this great song, I'll send it to you later, but it's by Willie Nelson and Billy Strings playing together, and it's called California Sober. But there's this lyric in the song where he goes like, I have years I can't recall, but I'm told I had a ball, or at least somebody did who looked a lot like me.
I was told I had a ball?
Yeah, a ball is like a party. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was told I had a ball.
Explain to me. Yeah. I was told I had a ball, and then trying to.
Yeah. So, I'll slow my English down and try to fix my accent for you. I have years I can't recall, but I'm told I had a ball, or at least somebody did who looked a lot like me. So the idea here is that he spent so many years drunk and fucked up. And then he's like, now he's got, people telling him like, oh yeah, you had so much fun, and he doesn't remember all the fun he had.
Right. Okay. Now I understand. Sorry, now it's not cool when you have to explain it. I wish I could understand it.
It's okay.
Without. Okay, so that's nice.
You have really, really good English speaking and comprehension compared to a lot of Eastern Europeans. So.
Dude, that's all Matthew, man. That's all that guy that when I was 13 years old, like he actually gave me a chance to like pick up on the accent and stuff, and he later visited, like, anyway. So yeah, man. So then this band actually. So even though I left US that year and then kind of came back to Ukraine, to Kiev, and that's actually where we are going into the switch from guitarist to production of music. There was a switch there right after that. So, and then in that, I came back, and then of course we cannot play anymore with the band, and we ended on such a high note, and so many people came around, and I was promoting the concert. And that's why one thing I also will say is that I had a really good time in a high school at that time, because I'm like very like extroverted in overall, and very like outgoing, and I really like I love to hang out with people and stuff. And then like in US I was like very, very much like accepted in that way, and it was so cool. Like I remember in high school, like I could never do that at my school, man. But I went out with a guitar like to promote our next concert like 2 days before, and I was the whole day with the guitar like jamming and playing songs and singing songs for some people, like kind of promoting like that we have this concert coming up in 2 days. And we also played during the lunchtime, also during the lunch hour, like where everybody was in those lunch tables, and like so that was so sweet. And I'm on that hype coming from US back to Ukraine, and I can't like do the like the thing is like because I had the bass player, like it's also having a band is like it's a really, really insane job in overall, because you have to like vibe with all these people, and it has to work out a very, I don't know, it's like one in a million, I don't know, because like and for example me and the bass player, like Aguileo is his name, we are super good friends, we still talk, and like we will be great as bandmates, like we've established like that. Like with our drummer it was interesting, but it was not like, I know that ultimately if we kept being a band we would have to like change the drummer and stuff, and because yeah, like that was another story. But yeah, I couldn't do it, man. And so but I still wanted to do, and then also I was in a jazz band, I also forgot to say, that same year. So I was on this hype of music, and then I come back and now it's a choice for me. Now it's insane because I come back from US, and now it's time to make a university choice.
Hold on. And before we get to that, I have a couple of questions I wanted to ask about like the
okay.
foreign exchange, experience.
Yes, ask me.
So, one is, what were some things that you had in your mind about what America would be like versus how it really was?
Well, I have to say, as a kid, like everything that I've dreamed of and imagined, for me, United States was basically that, to be honest.
So
like,
it was met your expectations 100%, basically.
Like, yeah, because I was like watching, I don't know, American Pie, and I was like, okay, that's cool. That's the parties they have in the house, and that's the hangouts, and I know that everybody's like super joking, so yeah, like, and then I had that. I had those house parties. Like, I had that like American Pie experience in that way. Like,
okay.
So,
okay.
That was for me.
So then the second question was, what was it like to be Ukrainian in an American high school, and how did people because most American kids don't even know what the fuck a Ukraine is, right? Hi, I'm Kyle, I'm from Ukraine. What's that? Is that in Mississippi? Yeah.
Dude, I had so much fun with that because, yeah, you're right, like nobody had any clue. And so before my exchange program began, which was August of 2012, so in July we were in a camp where for 3 days in Ukraine, in Kiev, we had like a preparation for US. And one of the things that they told us was that like, if somebody asks you where you're from, you just say like, oh, I am from Ukraine. That is in Eastern Europe, or that's close to Russia. I even remember that like
close to Russia. Yeah, don't say from Russia. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And I remember that. And I remember that explanation, like to I don't remember if I actually used it, but that was one of the explanations they gave. And I had so much fun, man, because like literally they had no clue. Like some of the students in school didn't know where it was. And I remember I was pretending that we have horses, and I don't know what is a car. I remember that I was like looking at a car and like, oh my God, like, oh, what is that? Like, I mean, I don't know, just joking with this technological. I'm like, yeah, of course I ride horse to my school, like in Ukraine. Yeah, like I go on the horse, and they were like, didn't understand if I was joking or not. Like I was like, no, come on, like we've got also the same things. Yeah, we also have the computers so yeah, that was. But you were asking me how the American guys, like in overall, really good, like super welcoming, super good. I have to say, you're very, very warm people, and you make like instantly very warm, and I don't know, that was very cool. I had one problem with like one guy, but it was not, I don't think it had to do because he's from America specifically. It's just like a person thing.
Yeah.
But we did have like one, he was like joking or something like that on my accent or something like this, and he said like some out of place comment, and then we had some like kind of mini confrontation, you could say. But that was just like the only bad thing I can remember, because pretty much, now that I think about it, like mostly I had like very positive and people accept this enthusiasm, because in Ukraine is like the people always think that like, oh, are you like high or something, or are you like on like, why are you so charged up or something? I'm like, I'm too overwhelming, like I'm too much for some people like from Eastern Europe, like, and because in general they're more like I don't know, serious or quiet. I don't know, it's not really like, I don't always jive with like everybody, like, but then from US when I first came there, like that was the place where like with everybody, like the school was like 1,000 students or something, like, and I'm pretty sure like more than half of it like knew me by the end of the year because we all had chance to hang out and stuff. I don't know, something like that. Does it answer?
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, man. I mean, the answer is whatever your experience was, right? So, no, that's so cool. Like just the idea of. So I had like foreign exchange students in my school as well, and they're mostly like French and German, maybe a few others. But like I'm still to this day like really close. I won't say really close. It's not like we talk every day, but one of my best friends in high school was a German foreign exchange student, and like when I was actually the same year you met me at Gamescom, she came out and had a few drinks with us. Like she wasn't too far from Cologne. So
what?
And it was like
insane.
Like a family reunion kind of thing. Like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm seeing you again. Like, how are you and all that stuff. So
and you haven't seen each other at that time, like since high school, basically.
I think we'd seen each other once since she was a student there. So she would kind of like every once in a while come back and visit her family that she stayed with, like, you know, while she was in America. Just, you know, spend a week or so and, you know, go around and meet up with all of our old friends and stuff. And, you know, we would do that. Or I'd pick her up and go to the mall or whatever. But it had been a long time. Like that was like, you know, shortly, maybe during or shortly after school. And then, you know, this was 8 years later. Like,
yeah. Wow. That's so surreal.
But I'm really good. I'm like a lot like you, where I try my very best to keep in touch with people that I care about. Like I'll like check in, like, hey, what's up? You know, that kind of shit.
Yeah. No, because it's so wonderful. I mean, there is like, that's also like, speaking of these 4 things of like I was talking at the very, very beginning of like the partner, the job, the friends, and the location. So like speaking about friends, I feel like that is so important because there's like, because the friends also very, very much impact also like your like, you know, world point of view, and also like subconsciously you kind of still want to like, I don't know, if all my friends are chilling, not doing anything, I'm also like, yeah, you know what, fuck it, I'm also gonna chill, not do anything. If my friends are like doing something, working on something, getting somewhere, I'm like, okay, I also have to do it. Like it's also part of like so in out of 8 billion people, I don't know, you want to like have, I don't know, for who 10 or 20 or 50, I don't know, like, but when you find somebody like meaningful like this, it's really, really beautiful. Like you can identify that, and you never know like when exactly, like with this German girl, like you never know, like maybe you will have a new phase coming up where, I don't know, you'll be in Germany, and like, I don't know, it's cool. So it's great that you do that also. No, I don't know, that's kind of the point.
Let me take a quick minute. I'm gonna go grab another cup of coffee. Maybe we'll get a bathroom break, and then let's go back to your returning to. You at this point you've returned from your foreign exchange journey.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned Kiev, but I'm assuming you went home. So
Yes. So, dude, so basically, so Kiev is actually relatively close. So Zhytomyr to Kiev is 1.5 hours to travel by car. From my town is like 5 kilometers. Okay, 1 hour, 40 minutes, whatever. But main point is that I knew that we were talking about this, I think, with my mom or something, that I knew because it was time for me to go to university. And that was like a very life also changing summer, because over that summer, like I arrived like in June, I graduated from my school. I skipped actually my last year of school, and that was another thing. But because I did it in high school in US, but the programs are extremely different, like between what we study on 11th year and what people study in United States. So, but they let it slip, and they let me just pass that year. And then I was going to universities in Ukraine. You can apply for 5 universities, and of course, given that I just came with my super band, my Almost Americans, And then also I came with my jazz band experience, and I came like all super charged up that I am going to like do something with the guitar, with the music. So out of 5 universities, man, I applied for 4 universities, like in guitar, like studying guitar. So it was like, and I remember I was preparing a program and I was playing some like complex classical music stuff, like not super complex, but still not bad, you know. And I have the rhythm, you know. Maybe I don't have I didn't have so much the technicality and stuff. Like I cannot be like shredding like crazy, you know. But I have a good sense of rhythm, and that is like, I guess, one good thing like that hopefully helped. So yeah, and I wanted to study sound engineering, and then basically in Ukraine you can study for free if you are like if you have super good grades. But because I didn't have a proper year to prepare for my graduation, actually my I had to do an exam for like an entry exam for university, and the results were like okay. They were not incredible, and because they were okay, I wasn't eligible to study for free. So then it means you have to pay for the university, and then I cannot pay because I'm just having 17 years old. So I'm like, okay, and then my father is the one who will pay. So then my father comes in, and as you remember from my very earlier stories, he was like very skeptical about this, and he was like, which music? What is that? What are you talking about? And then just out of curiosity, I like applied for just in case, I don't know, it was also interesting to try something different. I actually applied for languages, like to be a translator, to be like a linguistic guy. And he's like, for that, I'm paying. I'm not paying for this. Like, for this, I will pay. Because it was the same amount, actually, to go as a sound engineer into this one pretty good school, actually, that is like, in Ukraine is considered to have some respect. And then this other one, which with linguistics. And so he was like, no. And even within that university with linguistics, they had a faculty for music, but then I just remember that a big part of me not actually studying music, and that's why I don't have that, like, was that summer also, because like I couldn't afford to pay for it myself, and so I was like kind of had to just choose like what kind of my previous generation thought is better for me. And yeah, man, and so I started to study languages after all of this. After all of this insanity, like with the band, and we were doing open mics, we were playing in the bars, we had our solo concert at the end, we played in high school, like with the jazz band, we also played on stage. I was like, okay, now I'm gonna do something with that. My friend, my bass player, he got inspired to actually study bass guitar, like in LA at the time, and so I was also with that idea, and I go to study languages, man. So I was just studying languages, but then interestingly, while at this, because now this is also an important point where I go into production. At the same time, one of the reasons I went to Kiev was because there was somebody over there, somebody with like a mentor figure vibe, same as Matthew. Like if Matthew was my mentor figure vibe, like from my 13 to like 16, 17, this guy, he became my mentor figure vibe for like from 17 until 20, I would say, for like next 2-3 years. Like the next 2 years, he will have like a lot of influence over me and over the way that I think and over the way that I do stuff and the way I organize and the way that I live in overall. So like very big one. So this guy, believe it or not, he was like my grandmother's, because I mentioned earlier my grandmother was in a music school, an accordion teacher. So actually this was one of her students. So he was my mother's sister age. So he's 85, like, so he's like basically my generation, but kind of before, like, anyways, we had like 10 years difference. And then he at that time became like a big music producer on like on a Ukrainian TV channel, and that was like 2012 or 13. And at the same time, he started his own music studio because his TV channel needed a music studio to work with, because they were signing a lot of artists, and they needed artists for like Ukraine's Got Talent, The Voice, like all these like American shows, but like Ukrainian version of them. The Voice, we had the Talent show, some other ones, and they were signing a lot of artists. And so he was the main producer. So he's like, actually, I decide which music studio this TV channel is working with. So actually he was super cool because he got like income stream revenues from both of this channel and from this music studio, because he was getting like a lot of zakaz, a lot of orders. Like there was a lot of orders that he was getting. And it was him and his brother, and then he had another assistant, so it was the three of them. So he also like very much inspired me to go to Kiev, and he was like very inspiring figure for me, man, because he was like a musician. He plays accordion because he was my grandmother's student, and then he's in the music, and he's, you know, the producer in this super cool TV channel. Everybody knew this TV channel, and he's in the studio. Like he was, oh man, like he was a super inspiring also person in that phase. And ultimately, like he helped me discover that like working doing music for games is like something that will bring me a lot of joy. And yeah, and then I can get to how I discovered that, but that's to close that thought, kind of. I don't know.
That's interesting. So what year is this that you kind of like make that revelation?
2013. So 2008 I was like, so 96 I was born, 2008 I was 12 years old to pick up the guitar, and then I was like 17 years old. And then because we were talking with him in depth about like about this aspect of like doing a job that you really enjoy, because I feel like in life it's almost like either you make good money but you don't really enjoy this job, or you really enjoy this job but you don't make any money. So it's like, fuck, it's like always one or the other, you know. And that's where he helped me to understand that like doing what you love and making money on it is like the ultimate joy. Like, so that's so fucking cool. And the way he helped me is that he told me like, okay, listen, dude, make a list of like 10 things that you really enjoy in life. And that would be like random stuff. Like, I don't know, walking outside, I don't know, whatever, looking at the skies, like not something ridiculous like sleeping, but like still things that, well, maybe you're sleeping also. But anyways, and then he said, okay, now make like top 5, like top 10, like which are the most favorite. And my like top 5 things were like music, it was video games, it was selling, because I love like also like that part like of sales and working with the other people also. Like then it was like traveling, I love traveling, like, and getting to know people. And then it was like English, because that was a thing for me back then, like to use English was a thing, like so I was like, yeah, I want to speak more English. And then there was something else, and then basically he's like, dude, I'm here looking, and the idea is that your job unites like as many of them as possible. And he's like, dude, if you do like music for games, you're like satisfied on all of those aspects. Like you got your music craving done, you got your sales craving done, you got your like traveling, you got your like, and it really is that, like it really, in a scenario where I am like right now, for example, my current scenario where I'm like full, like right now I'm like full-time working on soundtracks. I'm not even so much doing the sound design, like I'm doing specifically soundtrack music, like and wow, like that's insane. And so I was like 17 when he helped me to come to that understanding, and I went back to United States later, and I was with that thought, man, for like 4 years while I was still doing another job, and I was doing production just like on the side. And I never kind of, it's been 10 years now? No, now I'm 28, so 11 years since I got that like specific job position. And then, yeah, man, and then that's where our agreement was that I was helping him on the studio, and then he was, because like on internet, I helped him translate the website to English. Like I was like a helper basically on this. I would even honestly offer like to like clean the place and stuff, like for the chance to use their studio, to use their equipment. And I was like staying there, man, in the nights. I remember I had like, like I remember many nights that I spent, and then they teach me arrangement and mixing, and like I learned the mixing, mastering, some sound design, like all these skills, like in those 2 years that I lived in Ukraine, in Kiev, like while I was studying linguistics, like, and on the side doing that. So kind of like that,
man. Okay, so
the bomb dropping on you.
After that, so you basically spend 2 years like, I mean, studying, but obviously that wasn't what you wanted out of life. And then you are basically using your free time to, while your dad's paying for you to study, learn what you actually care about. Yeah, that's pretty smart.
Yeah.
That's a good way to do it.
That was cool. I mean, and I still was catching up on my. But I have to say, one thing that I did fail is that I only lasted like 1 year in that university. So I only, unfortunately, I was like expelled because I wasn't. Yeah, like it's kind of shameful. But I wasn't really doing too good in the university. But I also have to give myself an excuse that at the time I didn't see the point in studying, and actually I was doing the music studio, and then I had a job. I had a part-time job that was making me already like, for Ukrainian standards, like some nice money. I started like $200 or $300, but that's like crazy over there. Like, and being an 18-year-old kid with that, like, so I had so much more. Like, I was like, why do I even? I kind of like, I feel like if I put my mind to it, I would have went through with the university. But then, I just was more interested in making money, doing that. I was in customer support, working for an IT company, like a support, customer support. And then I was doing the music, so I found that like more entertaining to do. And then I enrolled in the new university next year, which I already was paying for because I was already working at the time. But actually, I don't know why, but I went back to the linguistics. It's just that I needed some kind of like, I already had my entertainment, which was which was the music studio and the job. So I just needed like, so interestingly, I could have probably paid to keep studying, and I wasn't planning to stay in US anyways, Tyler. I also have to say that when I came back from my exchange program, I was with the mindset that I'm just here in Kiev in Ukraine for 2 years, and in 2015 I'm going back. And the reason it was 2 years because my J1 visa doesn't allow to come back to United States for 2 years after I arrived. So I had to wait until 2015. So I knew that like I'm not anyways gonna study here. So I was like I enrolled in a private university that just doesn't bother me, that just like I just show up once and I get my grades and that's it. Like we have a lot of those in Ukraine. So and then I was looking for a way to come back to United States, man. So that was my big comeback, which was 2015. And that was a long one. That was like in New York for 4 years. Like, some bits and pieces of that story. So
yeah, so you're waiting for the day when you're, all right, now I'm allowed to go back. And so you saved up for a plane ticket, I'm assuming, and
yeah,
you're going to go to New York, the Big Apple, right? Like, so
yeah,
I'm assuming you've got like this idea in your mind of what that's going to be like. And yeah.
Which is like the Marvel movies, man, like the Spider-Man movies of Manhattan. Like that's how and I was actually going to New York with like, one of my intentions was that I was really inspired by like stock markets and that was another career I was considering at some point, is like all this finance stuff is also interesting, the stock markets and stuff. And I was studying a lot about that, and I remember being so hyped with the movie Wolf of Wall Street, and I saw that like a few months before my arrival to New York, and I don't know, as a 19-year-old, I got like super inspired that I'm gonna go to Wall Street and like some
do a lot of
brokers.
Party a lot.
Yeah, like, and make crazy money, like.
Yeah. All right.
Then I found out you need to get a stockbroker's license, which is $60,000, and then I was like, no, it's okay. But yeah.
Okay, so you get to New York. You walk off the airplane. What's the plan?
Yeah. Dude, so I came with the work and travel program, so I had to be obligated to the job there. So I had 2 jobs while I was there. One job was at a campground, which was just like it says activity manager, but I was actually just doing like, activity management. I mean, but I was doing all kinds of stuff around the campground, like selling tickets and I don't know, and pool, like cleaning the pool. I remember that. I remember picking up some garbage, like some more physical like stuff. But the thing is that I don't mind to do that kind of work, but the thing is that I'm not really using my brain too much, and I wanted something that I can use my brain, and that's where I researched like another J1 job that happened to be actually in New York, because this one was in upstate New York, so this was like not actually in New York, but it's like 2 hours away. And then I found it, man, and it was this company. It was, I don't think they're now existing, but it's called Elementum. And they were doing triptychs photography, and man, we had some interviews and they got me on board, and that is basically like a huge gap of my life, because I was basically like working there until like 2019, and I was developing, like I was continuing to go to my dream of like I want to do music, and Now I separated. That was one big difference, because when I left Ukraine in 2015, before going to New York, I was very close with this music studio, Tata Music. It's called Tata Music. It's this guy, my mentor, basically. He was so I actually saw myself at some point that I'll be with them. And one of the things I did in New York is I went to different music studios, and I was blinded not to see it back then, but they were basically offering me internships, which I didn't take on, but because I was like, no, but I want to help these guys, because I was very grateful to them for teaching me all this music production stuff. And then it started to happen, a transition where I was like, okay, now I think I'm going to separate from these guys. It was like gradually, but then we had like some argument or something, and then we kind of like went our own ways. And in 2015, that's where I started to like work, kind of Kyle Misko was born in a way, like you could put it that way, as a like brand, like, because right now for me it is like as a brand for like soundtrack stuff. And
on that note, I gotta say this real fast. So I was at I was given a speech on like game production in Bratislava. And
yes.
Yeah, and I'm like, I went up and did my presentation and all that. It was really nice. It was like this. It's called Anime Show, but it's like kind of a all-encompassing kind of pop culture festival they have there. And they invited me. They're like, hey, you know, all the speakers and like certain, you know, people who are here going to be invited back to the game tent this evening for a party. You know, kind of. And I'm like, cool. I'll be there. So then I went out and had dinner with my friends and everything, and then I come back and I'm at this party, and it was like free fucking Slovak wine, which I don't know if it's that good, but it was at the time enough to get you drunk. So, and I'm just hanging out with all these like, you know, these guys that are like younger, aspiring game devs. Actually, one of them was Boris, who was on the show pretty recently, and they're all like talking to me about like different stuff. And I don't remember how you came up, but I mentioned like, yeah, this guy, you probably never heard of him. He's like a musician named Kyle Misko. And then like 4 different people were like, oh, Kyle. Like everyone fucking knows you because you're so like active on social, like LinkedIn, and like you're good. Your brand, you have a brand, right? You know, and they're all like, oh yeah, everybody knows Kyle, and it's not like a bad thing, but they're like, everyone in games like knows that it's the guy that comes to every booth and is like, hey, you know, let me tell you about my music.
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah. No, dude, I know. That's great, man. Like something like that, exactly. It's like I had on Spotify like 9 monthly listeners for ages, and I didn't have anybody like joining there. And then I used to do all the random music under one Kyle Misko, but then like in 2020 I started to like specifically dedicate that name to like soundtrack music, and it's just some magic started to happen. Now it's like some 2,000 monthly listeners, and it's like it is slowly, very slowly, but it's like happening. Like, and some of the stuff I'm working on right now is actually from one of the conferences, like from that like not in Bratislava, but there is one in Brno also called Game Access. So anyway, so that's cool, man. That's cool. I'm glad that some people recognize me. That's awesome.
So, but anyway, so the Kyle Misko brand is born, and you're putting yourself out there as like a musician for hire, mostly for games. I know that you've done some other stuff too, though. Like
yes, and I was Kyle Myers at the time, so because I just had that idea. So one quick story about this name, Kyle Misko. So my original name is Kirill, so that's my original name. Like, but the reason I started to use Kyle was when I was in Ukraine in that 2013 to 2015 gap, when I was working for the customer support service while I was in the music studio, blah blah blah. That phase of life. Yeah. So we needed in our support team, some of the companies that were hiring us, they didn't want to like disclose that like they are in Ukraine, so like they had to pretend they were like in US. So some companies would be like, oh, like some customer will call and be like, and where are you guys based? Because we'll support multiple brands, you know, like I don't know, mostly software, mostly software. Like, oh, we're based in like San Diego in California, you know, and it was like, oh no way. I had some people who lived there in San Diego, and they're like, oh yeah, I was just driving by your office, and it's like super kind of awkward moment always. But then I also needed like the name that it was not so Slavic, because Kirill is like very, very Slavic, and it is difficult to pronounce for like people who don't pronounce the R, they pronounce like, especially in English speaking world, it's like R. So like it's like Kirill, and it's like in high school I was still Kirill, and I was like Kirill, like keep it real, like that was my way for people to remember. Like, but mostly my boss at that company, she actually came up with Kyle, and she was like, what can we think? And everybody was coming up with their like American version of their names. And my friend Konstantin, he was like a Tom, and my other like friends who had like Yaroslav, I don't know, or like very obviously Slavic names. And then and then she was like, why not like Kyle? Can you speak Kyle? I was like, yeah, why not? And actually she came up with that for me, and then that very much sticked. And then I was signing my emails at the end, like best regards, Kyle, and then I had to come up with the last name, and Misko is also a pretty Slavic last name, and then I was like also changing that. So I was Kyle Myers, and I went through a couple of versions. I was Kyle Myers, and that was my first pseudonym on my music. Then Kyle Chadwell. Then I had like different last names, and then it was 1 year after.
Sounds like you're gonna be in a porno, like Kyle Chadwell.
I don't know. you have to. I had like 3 or 4 different last names like that I was thinking, and then I was like, no, the last name I'll keep. So the last name is my original last name, but that one was that. And then the idea hit me was. I was in the park. It was winter. I was not having my job because I was working on street fairs. With this company, I was doing street fairs, Christmas markets. I was working in streets of Manhattan. Also, like in Manhattan, you can set up your booth if you're like 6 feet away from the main entrance. Like there's some rules to follow. And I was like, basically, my job was depending a lot also on the weather. And so like in the winter, I didn't really have much job. So because it was too cold and nobody was buying anything outside, and our pictures were like $180, $150. So you want like good weather conditions when making that like impulsive decision to spend something like $300, $400. And then basically in the winter I was going in the park, and then this idea hit me like, oh, I want to do like, because I want to do the soundtracks for games, but how can I start like? And then I was like, I was looking for many ways. I was emailing many studios. Like I was trying many things. In fact, I had my very first soundtrack project like that same 2015. And then I was like with the remakes idea. Oh, I want to revisit like some tracks from games that I love, like which are super underground games that like nobody in US knows, or in UK, like it's us Eastern Europeans like specifically played like I don't know, like Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, like I don't think that's like super popular, or like Heroes of Might and Magic, like that is mega popular in Ukraine and like not popular at all. Like, I mean, I haven't met so many people. Warcraft 3, like everybody loves the World of Warcraft, but no, for me, I didn't play World of Warcraft so much. I played it also, but Warcraft 3 was my thing. Or like, and I started to revisit all this unknown shit, underground, like Myst, also like a very, I feel like it's a niche also, it's not your mainstream AAA games. It's like some games that just made their way to specifically Eastern Europe, I don't know. And then I started to do those remakes like roughly in that all same time while working in this main job. So that's like continuing. That's my let me know, navigate me, Tyler, if I'm
No.
I need to
it's cool.
It's good.
Like that's the whole point of this show, is to just like what is your journey? What's your experience like? I think that it's really easy for people to get it in their own mind, like I'm not being very interesting or something like that. And then from my perspective, it's like nobody that I know except for you knows what it's like to go on this journey that you've been on. Like it sounds to you like your life, and that's normal. But most people who exist have not gone through all of these steps, bro. Like it's just not a thing. So
okay. Thank you. Yeah, because you have to, if anything, feel free to like stop me at any point. And but I definitely do want to like as a conclusion in this podcast to like arrive to this point, because it was definitely a trip. So it was those 3 years, and then that's where I was just doing this remakes of soundtracks. So I was doing the Legacy of Kain. So I started with Legacy of Kain for some reason just resonated with me. I mean, because it's like, I don't know, it was like these childhood games, they play like a big part I don't know, in my inspiration and the soundtracks from them and stuff. And then Diablo was another big one. And so basically I was like, okay, I want to do like a remake. And then that was 2016. And all of a sudden that remake is like going good. And then I was like, wow, like there's some views, like people are checking it out. So my biggest Legacy of Kain remake to date has like 53,000 views, or like 54. The other one has like 45. Well, maybe it depends on what are you comparing, on which scale. On some scale it's a lot, on some scale it's small. But for me it was insane. Like for me it was crazy. Like I remember being just in shock from that. And then I was like, okay, I kind of carried on with doing these remakes, and I got obsessed with the idea to do like the Blood Omen. So Legacy of Kain has like 4 games: Blood Omen, Blood Omen 2, Soul Reaver, Soul Reaver 2, and then it has Defiance. So it has 5 games in the series, and I just wanted to remake the soundtrack for Soul Reaver games. And then I reached out to a team. Dude, I was working with actually a Russian team. They're all from Russia. And we were working together on the remake of the like Blood Omen, the very first game. That was 2016. And that was like me remaking that soundtrack like 2016, 2017. And like one of my first experiences, like I'm not paid anything, I'm just doing it just like that because I have my main job and I'm just doing this to understand what's happening. The only paid project I had up until that point was the one I did in 2015 for a small game, and that's it. Like, but it was just all trying things out. And then and then I got and then it would just went in a spiral because it was the Blood Omen. After that, it was this. I started to look for a team that is remaking the original Soul Reaver game, and that's where I found Monica, which actually she's from Slovakia. Actually, you were just talking about Bratislava, and she's like actually just now she was revealed as the director on the new Soul Reaver remaster, because the Soul Reaver is actually getting a remaster after like so many years. And it's coming out like already very soon. And actually, like, we were working with her closely on remaking that original soundtrack from Soul Reaver, and like now she's the director. Like, it's crazy, like how some things in life turn around. Like, literally, like I want to say 10 years later, because 2016 is when I started chatting with her, and now it's 2024, almost 2025, and like almost 10 years later, like she got that because she wanted to remake that game, and I wanted to make a soundtrack for it.
If you love this show, and you love supporting indie video games, please take a moment to check out In the Keep's upcoming Stellar Valkyrie. Built in the GZ Doom engine, this retro first-person shooter puts you in the universe of space bird bounty hunter Falco, who is on a mission to save his ex-girlfriend from the evil Black Star cult. Just type birdgame.space, that's BIRD game.space into your browser, hit enter, and smash that wishlist button. And stay tuned. And now, back to the show.
And then that was those 4 years, man. It was also a lot of production, just random production, like on the, like really random stuff, like whatever comes to my mind. I was just doing stuff on the weekend, and then I started to like separate my sounds, and that was one thing that helped me a lot. When I told you earlier, like Kyle, Misko for me now is like specifically like for soundtracks, for games, for films, but it's like that soundtrack style. And then I did a lot of electronic music. I also started to dig. I didn't know electronic music a lot because I grew up on rock music, and that was my life. My life was all of those bands that I talked to you about. And then in 2016, like in New York, I come in, and the reason I transitioned into electronic music was because I was listening to Radiohead actually at the time, and then Tom York, the lead singer, described that in their last album, OK Computer, which was in 1999, like not the last album, but like at the time, their next album was Kid A, and that came out in 2000, and that had like a very, very different sound. And OK Computer, and they're like 2 or 3 years apart, I don't remember exactly. But then he said that he got inspired because he started listening to FX Twin and to Otecker. Otecker is like a British duo, and FX Twin is also like electronic guy. And then I was like, okay, that's interesting. And every time I listen to a band, I love to listen to the whole discography. I like to go with the first album, second, third, and like that. I did the same with the FX Twin. Actually, was one of the first ones, and that like kind of coincided at the same time of me actually separating from the Tata music, from that Ukrainian studio, starting slowly. I was still Kyle Myers at the time. Like even my first cover on YouTube is Kyle Myers, so you can see that like it says there. But then that's same time I started to dig into electronic music, man, and then I just got consumed. Like I love electronic music. It's like, but it came way later. Like, but I was listening to Deadmau5, like a lot of Deadmau5. Boris Brescia, that one is incredible. He's from Germany. Like and all this like house and techno and wow, and I started to bring those elements also into my production as well. So that was cool. I don't know. I was like slowly shaping this sound. I don't know.
I get it, and it's interesting how you kind of got into video games from the perspective of like looking at lesser known things, like lesser known gems from maybe from the past or whatever, and then primarily now, I mean, the way that you break into this industry as a musician is going to be to work on indie games. Like you're not, so many people like there. It's interesting because there are very few like famous rock star game composers. You know, there's like Mick Gordon, Andrew Hulshult, and then, you know, your AAA games have like symphonic soundtracks, you know, so they go hire a composer who does other things that aren't just games, right? And that kind of thing. And then, so if you want to be, if someone said like, I want to be a musician and I want to work in video games, I'd be like, well, you need to get as many indie clients as possible. That would be the first piece of advice I gave them. But from your perspective, like, what was that kind of journey into it like? Like, did you know a target?
Yeah, exactly. So that's a great one, man, because to be honest, I was like very, very much in the blind going into it. So for 4 years that I lived in New York, I always had the main job. So I was really just like doing these remakes. I was doing some side projects, like I worked on another game and stuff, but it was not ever done like super professionally. It was just me testing out the ground, seeing what's happening. And then it was one of the ideas is that I had a big life thing that happened in 2019, and I had a choice whether to keep staying in the United States or come back to Ukraine. And that's where I heavily was considering to actually return back to Ukraine for a short while. I never envisioned myself like living over there forever or anything like that since I was a kid. And then I was like, because I thought one thing is I could actually finish that. I don't know if you remember, but I started that second university in the first year didn't work out in that original university that my father paid for, and then I started to pay for this private university. And actually, I wanted to have the degree because just to have it, like that's the thing also in Ukraine. So I was like, okay, I can finish my degree. And then one of the big selling points to come back was that, I can actually try to do this like full time, because I couldn't try it in New York. In New York, I had to do like $1,500, $2,000 just to like cover myself, because I mean, of course I could live for cheaper for sure. And I rented like a room for $400, like, and I could like live with, I don't know, $1,500 budget or something. But like at the time I wanted to like kind of, as I grow, my standards grow. Like, so now I want like a window in my room, and then like I want more things. And then that kind of place was like costing more, and kind of my life was really nice. But to have that, to keep going with that life, I had to keep it up at like 1,500, 2K, like just minimum, I had to keep it up there. And then I just couldn't know if I could deliver, like, and most likely I won't deliver doing it, like trying it with the music. So I was a bit trapped, and I was stuck also with the company. Like I couldn't work with other companies and stuff. So I was like, okay, actually going to Ukraine could like loosen my hands up a bit. And then in 2020, like 2019, end of 2019, we come back already with, now she's my wife, but like she was my girlfriend at the time. And then
we got to talk about that too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So that you have to, yeah. And then we come back in October, and then we were figuring out where we're gonna live, because I lived 3 years in Ukraine, and I lived in all three parts of Ukraine, like all like eastern. Like I lived in Kharkiv 1 year, Kharkiv. I lived in Zhytomyr, and then I lived in Lviv. So that's. So basically that's the 3 years over there, and all of those years, like that was the time that I used to kind of build up something that now I can, like, because now I can live actually like for now everything is looking good, and like I can live in London and do it full time, and actually like I can't complain. Like right now it's very good, but it has been like it did take like a lot of fucking trials, man, like because I had no clue about anything. Like I just only loved my old games. That's why I just do it, because I love my games. I love my old games. I love like this 2000 graphics. Like I love the new graphics. It looks cool, but I have something special in my heart when I see these old games with their old graphics. Like there's something cozy about it. And now the indie market is crazy, so like it's super big, so you can like now work on games that look like they're from 1999. I'm working actually on a game right now that looks like from 1999. But anyways, and that's all, man. I didn't have any like idea about actually the industry or the music industry or the industry. Like how much should I charge? Have no clue. What are the rights? Exclusive, non-exclusive, commercial license, distribution license. Like it's insane. It's like so it was a lot of mistakes, dude. It was like so many. I can think of so many mistakes. It was 2020, 2021. Like those 2 years are full of projects where I was like making mistakes, and like where was like of course like not even talking about undercharging and stuff like that, but also in overall like giving away too many rights without really realizing it. Like being like, because the people out there who they're not gonna be like, you're new to this, let me help you and explain everything how it works here. Like, you're new to this, well, let me find a way that I can like use that you are ignorant, and maybe I can like. So I had some unfortunate situations where I was like just some shitty deal, like looked good on the surface, but actually the deal was not so good and stuff, you know. So I had to like, I wouldn't say burn some bridges, but like kind of like burn some bridges, I guess, to some extent, before I like learned what is, you know, how the industry works. I haven't worked with publishers before. I had no idea about that and the contracts. Like already like last year I had like lawyer consultation. Now I'm like much more aware, but starting out I was like not sure, man, and I didn't even know where to find this work anyways. And I was just like, okay, maybe I was like on Facebook. I remember finding all my first projects on Facebook groups and just like literally adding people to friends and just like, hey, I love that game, like maybe I can do some music or something. And also because I was in Ukraine, I didn't have such a super high cost of living, so like I could actually like pull it out working on it full time. So that was my first dream, like, can I do it full time? And I remember asking my family even, like, actually, and Fernanda was like the only one who truly, not the only one, but she was one of the people who really supported me in that. But to be honest, my family and my friends were not really like so much supporting that idea. I don't remember much support, to be honest. I don't know. Now, yes. Now, of course, they're like, yeah, dude, you got it. You're fucking great. Like, but I'm like a little bit also started to... That's where it's so important, the relationships and the friends also and stuff. Like, because it's so important to have somebody there in that moment, like really in that 2020, 2021, like really needed that support and stuff. And especially, of course, COVID was happening for everybody, but another thing in 21, so my mother, she passed away at the end of 2020, and that was like super big drama also to deal with in 2021. So like a lot of my career is also intertwined with like life things I was living at the time also, and yeah, it was like a turbulent journey. I died.
Man. And okay, so where were you when the war started?
So that was supposed to be the perfect year, because we had the first year in Kharkiv, which didn't quite work out because of like the COVID and other stuff. Then in Zhytomyr was with my family, and then 2022 we moved to Lviv, which was like our last year in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. We knew that it was like the last one because we wanted to come anyways ultimately to UK. Like Fernanda has been dreaming about coming to London also, and I also wanted to try here because I lived, like, I had my dosage, let's say it that way, of United States, and I wanted to try some new country. And then I was like, okay, let's go. And then we were living at the time in Lviv, and we just applied for a scholarship program to study in UK our master's degree for free. We didn't win, but that was the memory from that time. And then we just moved to our like amazing place. It was like our year in Lviv, we had the best place in the center. Like it was amazing conditions to have an amazing year, but yeah, for some reason that had to happen. This war, man. So that was that was the whole 2022. So I was like the whole year in Ukraine. That whole war year, 2022.
Then what was like the feeling on the ground? Like, what did you know, like what you were gonna do immediately, or did it take some adjustment to like kind of come up with a plan? Like,
yeah. So my cousin, he's in the army, and he did tell me like I have to say I was advised to kind of like leave, if anything, like about a month before. Like so in February the war started, and my cousin, he's like in the army, and of course like who is there has connections and stuff, so he knew that something was coming up, and he said, look, if you can, like, do leave. So I was actually advised to leave, and Fernanda actually also really wanted to go, and we had a good opportunity to go to Poland. But I have to say, partly we actually partly didn't leave because of me, because I didn't believe, and also the environment didn't believe that this war will actually happen. They were like, because we already had the war, since 2014. So we already had it for some years. And so that's why it was already like a usual thing. Yes, the war, of course, like on the East, because that was already for since 2014, it was already 8 years of that. But then nobody thought that it will just like come to this point. And so, yeah, man, there was lots of feelings happening there, but like we stayed, then this war started, and then it was gradually. It was like 2 days. We thought it will be just 1 day, then 2 days, then 3 days. Then it started to prolong. Then we thought, okay, it's just gonna be a week. Okay, and then we have the martial law implemented right away. Like that doesn't allow the guys to leave, and everybody has to be like enrolled and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but the first couple of months were, I don't know, it was like we thought it's gonna be over sooner. So I thought like, okay, it's fine. Like, let's just wait it over here, and everything was comfortable. We just got the apartment. Like, it was just too soon to leave. Like, we just moved in, and this is supposed to be our break from like that big family drama that happened in 2021, and like we just wanted to get a break and before we go to keep hustling. And yeah, like that's where it started to continue. Like, it was like March, then it was April, then it was May. We made one big project, which was the Ukrainian folk album. That was like one kind of patriotic. I'm not really patriotic person in overall. Like for me, I have like some of my own views and stuff. Like, but that moment I felt very, very like patriotic that I've never felt before. Like, and I was like, okay, I want to do something. And so that Ukrainian folk album is like definitely a big part of like that era, and that album actually very much resonates a lot with like what was happening in the time and how we were feeling. And it's like a 9 tracks that remix the folklore music, the Ukrainian folklore. And I think I sent it to you. I don't know if you had a chance to listen.
Yep.
Like, what?
It's good stuff.
You know that one, yeah.
It's like it's just like it's nothing like I've ever heard before. But on the other hand, it's like this. It sounds like in my mind, like stereotypically, like, oh yeah, Eastern European folk music at the same time. It's really cool. Like, and I think one of the interesting things that I've seen, if there could be any good that came of this, and there isn't yet, but to some degree, like the kind of the unification of Ukraine as a nation, and like the embracing of like we have a culture, we have a an identity, and then a lot of artists, especially like yourself, and even like game designers. I mean, Stalker 2 just having come out was sort of a big thing.
Yeah, right.
But like this sort of rallying around the idea of being Ukrainian. And I don't know much at all other than, what friends like you tell me. But it does seem like it was sort of interesting how, I mean, a lot of people in Ukraine speak Russian and are ethnically, Russian. I mean, as you said in the very beginning of this podcast, like you were born kind of right after the fall of the Soviet Union.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Then there's this like resurgence of people saying, like we want to translate games into Ukrainian and all this kind of thing. And whether that's a financially smart decision to make or not. It's just like we want to preserve what this is.
Definitely. And you're right, like for example, even myself, my mother, she was like born in Russia, in Buryatia, which is like really far away. It's like Lake Baikal, and like she grew up mostly in Ukraine, but she was born there. And her side, like my grandmother, she like is like, she moved to Ukraine like in the 90s or something, but I don't know, the first 20 or 30 years of her life, or 40 years, she was like over there and stuff. So we do definitely have that a lot of common ties. I had like Russian language in school. Like now it's interesting, like I still speak Russian with my brothers and stuff, but they don't know, like my youngest brother, he doesn't know really how to spell. Like he uses, because he has autocorrect on the phone, he knows, but he doesn't know really like the grammar of like Russian language, because like I actually had to, like I had Russian language in school where I was like learning how to do the sentences and like and stuff. Like now I wouldn't ever imagine having that, like there will be that class, but now but yeah, it's insane, honestly, like that. Mostly it was like not most of Ukraine, but big part of it was speaking Russian and stuff. So
I don't know
that
if
was
this
a big thing
came up for you in language school, but one of the most interesting things, especially having the benefit of being a native English speaker, is that you can kind of tell a lot about other people's grammar by the way that they speak English when they learn it. So like Russian grammar, just since you brought it up, is so like interchangeable. Like you can move words all around in the sentence and more or less come up with the same meaning. And it's not nearly as particular in a lot of cases as English is. So for the best example that was ever given to me is like my friend who is she's a professor of Russian in Prague. And so she like teaches people Russian. And she was talking about how like in America on computer it come up and it say something like, this is Sasha, I hope you're listening to this. Yeah. She's like, the computer will say, would you like to delete this file? And she's like, in Russian it say to delete. Why do you have all these polite words? It makes no sense. And I'm like, it's a perfect example of the difference between the two languages. Like, so then I had this running joke with her like forever, where it's like anytime that she would say something, instead of me saying like, she would explain something to me, and then instead of me saying like, hey, could you explain that to me more thoroughly, I would say, to explain. right to elaborate. Yes. Just what's the best way to get what I want out of you with the fewest amount of words possible.
That's great, man. Very practical, exactly.
Yeah. It's like we're cold and we don't have anything to survive off of but potatoes and fucking vodka and beets, so we don't want to waste energy with all these fucking polite words. Get to the point. And I love
dude, it's the same with the Soviet architecture. It's so practical also. It's like fucking doing all of these like gorgeous things and on all these like facades and build them for years. Let's just do like a nice, here you have the building, it's a box, it works, big box, here you come in and like, and it's very practical, not only in the language.
What do you need for a house? Toilet, you need water, you need a place to sleep. Okay. We make box, 40 of these fit in box. Da? Yeah.
Exactly. Dude, that's awesome that you got that that experience. So yeah, man, so that was my thing. And then we realized, so just to kind of like, just to come back also to like, just to return, just to say that like, we realized at some point that it's not working out. The war is not being over. We still have to keep staying. I was doing like my soundtracks at that time, like half of the time I was in the house, the other half of the time we went to the bunkers, like we were in the shelters for some hours, then you have to come back, then like then it kind of chilled out, then people stopped going already, like the first 3 months was like more intense, and every time we hear the sirens we have to go to the bunker, and I have to like delay like for example the case of the Golden Idol soundtrack, like I wrote like pretty much that whole soundtrack like in these war times, in between like the alarms and electricity outages. We had like a very really like a tough schedule of electricity, because it was different every day, and there were like 3 different groups that you could be in. So if you're in group 1, on Monday your schedule is like 1 to 5 a.m. you don't have electricity. 5 to 9 you have electricity. 9 to 1 you might have, so 50-50. 1 to 5 you don't have. And we had like basically a schedule of electricity that we had to work around with, that we're both working online, and we need, of course, like constant internet and meetings and stuff. So so it was like pretty like pain in the ass to handle. And then on top of that, the other level of difficulty that added on top is that the Ukrainian guys like started to also enroll like people like on the streets already to the military, because like we don't have enough people, right? Like, because we're just like, we were 40 million population. Then when the war started, like in general, the statistics are like around 8 million people left, like to different countries and stuff. So you have like roughly 30 million people, and then half of them is like the women's and the children's, you know, and the seniors, you know. So you got like 15 million. Then maybe you get some other, like, let's say roughly like 10 million guys, like you can actually like enroll, you know. And then the Russia, it has like 150 million, you know. So it has like triple the like. So it's like, it's no matter like, even if we have like the most insane, it's like the 100 Spartans, you know, 300 Spartans against like, maybe you can withstand, okay, 2K, 3K people, 4K to be in a small group of 300. But like here it's just like super numbers. And yeah, and so the army was like, started to like more actively enroll also, and like started to enroll people like on the streets, which wasn't up until that point, you know. So that was like the first 4 months were kind of fine. Like, of course, aside from electricities and the boom, you know, going to the shelter, you know, sometimes and stuff, but it was our shelter was like across the streets, like, so it was. Then it started like this thing, and then I was like, and was never well, it's a whole another thing and topic and stuff, but like as I explained, I'm not really like a patriotic, you know, in general, I'm not really like a patriotic. I'm very like selfish person in that way, right? Like I only care for me, for my wife, for my family, for my friends, you know. And then like, and the country for me is like already like it's a, like I almost look at it in a selfish way. For me, the country is like a tool, like that they can like, or like they can help me get there with my goals and stuff. But like I was not like keen on the idea of like giving my life for the country. Like I understand that a lot of people find it honoring, and I definitely respect people who are that, like, but that was not like in my case. My way was like I want to contribute to Ukrainian culture, and I believe it has a lot of like potential, but I have like my own creative way to kind of do it. But they're not interested in that. They don't want my creative input. They want my physical body there, like, you know, shooting stuff. So like,
let me put that in an American's perspective, because this is one of those things where, like, if I talk to people from other countries and then I talk to Americans and I talk to you about this exact same subject, every single American has a pretty healthy understanding of you're allowed to love your country and hate your government. So, like, I totally understand the point of view of, like, you care about your friends, your people, your family, you know, the general culture of Ukraine, and I'm not gonna fucking die for this government, you know. Like, what did the Ukrainian government ever do for me? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's exactly it, man. Like, exactly. That's also another element here, is that it was also like, yes, dying for the country, like how they would put it, but also like it is also like the government and big part of it is also dying for like the decisions that, because I've been watching a lot of this stuff, man, politics and stuff, and it's all super shady. And then I also experienced with my father was trying to be a politic, and he was like having very good chances to win an election, and you know, he was with the mafia, like, yeah, there was like some mafia coming with the previous guy, you know, and like threatening him and stuff like that. If you don't, you know, take out your application, we're gonna like, we know where you live and we know where like your family goes. Like, so I know that it's like very, like the politics is like super sketchy, and I don't want to know anyways. My world is like the soundtracks, the video games, all of that. Like, I don't want to know that darkness, you know, and I don't want to, and kind of, I don't know.
Well, you're an artist, man. You're supposed to create things, not destroy them. I mean, that's who you are, like, in your soul, in a lot of ways. It's not just your personality, it's like your spirit. I mean, your instinct is to make things and create things, and that, not to, you know, shoot stuff or people. And I don't think I think that's a healthy way to look at it, because it's really interesting. Like the idea of like dying for your country is like I'm 6-year Air Force veteran, right? I don't think about it like if I had to like go to war and lay down my life for whatever reason. It's not. I'm not dying for fucking Lockheed Martin and Dick Cheney's wallet, right? Like I'm dying for the idea of like protecting the American values or people in America, or all of the children who would then, I don't know, be eaten by the Russian war machine or taken over by China, or like that's a better way to think about it than just like I'm just gonna die because some politicians can't get along, or because they want money or control of an oil field or whatever. Like, I don't fucking care about that.
Yeah, exactly. And then also it's like, what are they like? It was also very much like the opposite in a way of like, because we are like fighting also for the freedom and stuff. Like, I know, again, it's like, it's a tricky one, and I know people have different opinions, but it's just that it was strange that we're fighting like for the freedom and stuff, yet like we don't promote like the freedom of speech anyhow, like in Ukraine we actually had some kind of like, even prior to war, there was some kind of little bit dictatorship vibes to be honest. Again, maybe it's not nice to say, but some of the things and stuff. So I'm also feeling that it's not for like, because for me I'm like humanist, right? Like I believe that like our like a self kind of perfection and being good and making sure everybody's good and growing as a human being and becoming spiritual and reading, I believe in a lot of like self growth and all of that, and I don't like, we don't align like with our opinions, like even the way that I see Ukraine is like different. Like what I love about this culture is different from what is advertised what I should love about that culture. Let's put it that way. Like the government has their own view of like what they feel like the patriot is and which should be the reasons and stuff, but I have another reasons, and we're not like vibing like with the opinions there. So I don't know, it's something like,
so like you make your decision as the man to get the fuck out. And do you go directly to Montenegro or?
No. So it was a tough one. So it took me half a year to like make it basically to make it all possible. I don't know if I can get into like so super many details, but in general, what happened is that
let's protect your whatever that human smuggling out of Ukraine route is. Let's not expose it.
yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. Like exactly, it's like a strange thing and stuff. But it did take some tries, and it did take like different ways, and then it also did cost a lot of money. Like, do people also like, because it is also like a big business that opened, and there's people making like insane money on that. Also, like we're not insane, but like we're talking like easily like $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. Like people pay like, and it's all dollars. Everybody wants euros. Nobody wants that grivna. Nobody is all about the cash and stuff, and like in a way in our government also country, the way it works is like when you prohibit something, it's like just to create like a new way to do it, but just like now paying cash basically. I don't know, in some in some laws, you can still do it, like, but just now it's like not legally allowed to do that, so yeah, insane. Like you had to have like some like big savings, also like you also had to be very, I would say honestly, it took a lot of balls to do it, man, because ultimately I was like really scared to do that whole thing, because you have to pretend in some cases and stuff, and it's difficult to kind of pretend when you know that like if they find out that you are like pretending, like then it can be really hardcore. So it was a tough one, man, for me. Maybe I'll share it someday, but it was a lot of tries, like 6 tries and many hours in the line. The lines are very long also, like they're like 5 hours, 7 hours, 12-hour long lines, and very slow, and every single person who is leaving is questioned, and it's very, it was a tough one. And so when I really thought, man, at some point that I won't be able to leave, like there was that point where I didn't know also, and we couldn't also go together with my wife also, because the way that I needed to go is I needed to go like solo. And so when I like, we didn't know like if we will also see each other, and it was a very difficult time. But then finally that day came, and that was like roughly like at the beginning of 2023, and then I made it abroad, and that was like wow, that was like in a you would never think that you will be so happy, like in a wicked and twisted way. I was like so happy to leave. Like you shouldn't feel happy to leave your country, right? Like but I felt like, oh my god, like thank god, you know. And I'm like, at this point it's like I wanna, like, I don't wanna get close to that anyhow, and kind of part of me wants to get as far away as possible from that, because it really like traumatized me in some like psychological ways, like that experience and living all of that, you know. And like, if anything, like if United States, like in New York and in Oregon, you know, I'm grateful to those places because they gave me courage and power, and I really believe that like in myself, and if I really put my best heart into something, I'll be able to do it. And if I just like completely came with bunch of armor, like level 60, like I don't know, came with a bunch of armor to Ukraine, is like what I felt. To me, again, is my personal opinion. I know like my fellow guys like wouldn't support me in that way for sure. Like I have like misunderstandings with my people, unfortunately. But basically, kind of like I felt like more stripped away. Like and it was not only because of like, of course, the war, and it was the family thing, and just in general the situations I had to live and stuff. So like it was like taking out all of that armor, that epic shield and all of that. Like, so when I left, I felt like without anything. I just felt like starting once again, like building myself back up again. So for me, 2023, like beginning of 2023, is like a path to recovering my former self. I don't know, some quest line like that. Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to like do a little bit of mental gymnastics to get to the point I'm trying to get to. But so you and your wife managed to get out. Obviously, it's easier for her because she's not even a Ukrainian citizen and a lady.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
So somehow or another, you got this Chilean woman into Ukraine in the first place. So I want to go back to kind of how did this whole thing come together? How did you two meet? And why does she care so much about you?
Yeah, right. That was insane, man. Like, that was insane. That was incredible, honestly. Like that happened. So I think I told you earlier that about this guy Matthew, who played a big part in my life because he encouraged me to go to this exchange program. So he came back to visit me in New York in 2017, roughly, and he just was obsessed with the idea to see the ball drop. He just really wanted to see the ball drop on Times Square, and he was willing to go to like far away extents to do it. And he was like staying at my place. He stayed for like 2 weeks, and basically we had like lots of memories and lots of cool conversations. But a very important one was that night he went to see the ball drop, and he was like for 12 hours, he was from 12 p.m. until midnight there, like saving the spot. And while he was there, he started talking to this one girl. Her name is Caroline, and basically like he started talking with her, and then she was with a bunch of friends. So then they're like, hey, join us all together. And then I think Caroline, she's like from South Carolina or something, and like I know she's from somewhere from the South, and Matthew is from Texas, and actually the friends of hers were also from Texas, so they just like vibed, like, oh, okay, cool, you're my guys. And then basically they became super friends, and then he calls me and he's like, yo, dude, I met these super cool people, let's go hang out. I meet them, and then so we become friends with this girl, with this Caroline. And then like the way it works is that 4 months later, so we're talking like May, we were like keeping in touch, and then she said like, hey, actually there's this hangout, like let's go, like there's this meetup and stuff, like let's anyways, not important. Main thing is that it's a meetup. And on that meetup, man, that's where I met Fernanda. So it was like, you understood, like, so like it was Matthew visiting, he met this girl Caroline, and then this Caroline happened to have Fernanda as her friend. And then what happened is that Fernanda, she is from Chile originally, and she had a 1-year internship in New York City, like at this company KPF, and then we met in May. So we met like 3 months into her internship, basically, and then we just started to like hang out, and we were basically like really like just hanging out like friends and just having a good time and stuff. And it was insane that it grew into something like now we're married. Like I proposed to her actually in the war times. Like that was one of the things also. She stayed with me, and that was also insane thing for her to do also, because a lot of girls like actually also like from Ukraine actually that are like super patriotic. Like I knew some people that were super patriotic and saying how much they love Ukraine, and they left like the first day, second day they left. And then and Fernanda, she was receiving messages from Chilean government, because the Chilean government just wanted to save Chileans, not Ukrainians, and they were like, many people were telling her like, leave this guy, get out of there, like it's not safe and stuff.
Yeah.
And so we just it started in 2018, and then like that was great. The reason we came to Ukraine together was because she wanted to come here to UK because we wanted to do the master's program, and then that's why we came to Ukraine, because that would give us the time to prepare for UK. And that's why Ukraine seemed like a good decision also, because my father could get her a visa so she could stay for a longer time. Like we wanted to do 2 years. So 2 years to prepare and to do it. And then already actually in 2021, she already started to apply for this scholarship program. So it was just... and then she got into this, like, I didn't mean for her to experience this like family things, like, but I've been like feeling so mega blessed, I don't know, in that way to get to know her. It's insane, honestly.
Yeah, I remember there's like probably the day that I met you, but we were just kind of talking casually about this, and it sounded to me at the time like you were basically kind of in a rush to get hitched when you were in the States. And then
exactly, because that was my way. So that was one thing I was looking for. One of the ways that I could stay like longer in United States would be like, of course, if I marry like somebody from United States. So I also had definitely like, so one of the like with the throughout my 4 years over there, I was like looking for a relationship like with somebody from US, like specifically. And I had actually one for like a year and stuff, like, but I don't know why, man, it just was never working out, because I was not looking for like the hookups. Let's put like the hookups were like straightforward to find, but I was looking for like actually building the relationship, and I really wanted to like go and explore and grow together and all of those things, like where like for me the relationship is like where these two ambitious people that are like willing to get places, and we are helping each other to get there. Like it's almost like a union, like together we help each other to get there, and we support each other along the way. Like, and she supported me like insanely on my path also, like, and I also, of course, that's one thing I feel bad about, is that she had to like go away from architecture for some time, because in Ukraine you couldn't really do architecture so much full time and stuff. But like,
hey, in a few years there's going to be a lot of demand for architects in Ukraine.
Yeah, well, that's why I don't know, we'll see how it goes and stuff, like, but yeah, that's the thing. And I was looking, and that was also my way. So when this girl in common that we know, she was inviting me, I was with that intent in my mind. Oh, I will meet like some of her friends and stuff. And I was like potentially looking for a relationship. But when we met each other with Fernanda, we're like almost like still thinking, okay, like we're just like casually hanging out, really like just there for the good times to hang out, and then maybe go like on some, and then we started to do like some small things, like some short travels and stuff, and it was like this very, very casual relationship, like that started to like couple of months later to grow into something like, wait a second, like this is really, really awesome. And that's where I came to a decision that if I needed to stay in US longer, because I couldn't anymore do the job, I was really sick of the work. I loved it at the first year, 2 years, but then after that I really got sick of it. And then it was like, for me, the way to stay would be like, I thought like, if anything, to get married, or but then I thought like, no, like I don't want to give this up, because what we had building with her was so good that I was like, no, it's okay. If I'm meant to live in United States, like if I'm meant to live there, some other way will come up. Like I believe in that, and I couldn't do it because you could do it also for the money. You can also pay to do it in US for the money and stuff. But it was not even about that. I was afraid to do it in a fake way. I was actually trying to do it for real, and interesting how it all turned out. Like it's interesting.
Yeah, I think that that's a really interesting thing about love is like you mentioned, even like just not being into the hookup thing, and you're like really looking for something that meaningful. But just like even for me, like living abroad and stuff, it was so like it's so naive to think like, oh, I'm just gonna go to a place and like find I don't know, a woman from this country and we'll get married and then it'll all work out. Like it's never that simple. No love story worth telling is ever that fucking simple, right? Like name your favorite romance movie. It's never like, oh, and then I found the, and then it just worked out perfectly. Yeah. No, it's like a whole thing. You got to bargain with the time. I mean, I really like the way that you said, like, if it's meant to be that I'm supposed to live here, it will happen in some other way. Like and you decided what was ultimately more important to you. And honestly, man, if you got somebody who's willing to do all that shit with you and travel all around the world and deal with all this nonsense, I think she actually probably really likes you.
Yeah.
Not a lot of architects out there looking for a starving artist. Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
No, exactly, man. It is because it is truly like what we hope. Of course, it is like truly like love, like truly in its way, and it's like. And I don't know, and it's been wonderful. I mean, I just got back from Chile trip, which was like the first time me meeting her family. Like we've been 6 years together, and then we got married. We just recently celebrated 2 years also since we married, so that was awesome. That was great, yeah. And then it was her birthday also, so it was nice, and I got to know also her family and everything, and so I got to go to Chile and stuff. And
what was? And Chile? I don't know, like what's it like there? I've never been.
Wow, man, the South America, it's insane. It's it was my first time visiting, but it was the thing is that I didn't get to do so much sightseeing. The biggest focus of this was anyways to meet her family, so it's more like her family, and everything was great, and I was super welcome and feeling good. But the thing is that with the travel, I did do some traveling around, but not so much. And Chile is super gorgeous because it's like next to the Andes Mountains. It has like super epic entrance. When you fly from Argentina, like you are entering through mountains and mountains. I love mountains, and in Ukraine we don't really have we have Carpathian mountains, but they're not the same as the Andes. And so yeah, that was fucking amazing going into the country. And then it was summertime there because they are like seasons are switched. And then basically we were like for 2 weeks basically staying, and then we did get to do some sightseeing like in Santiago, like in the center. And then we went to the beach, also to the ocean, to Viña del Mar, so that was nice. I mean, it's super beautiful. I've heard many times that I'm very heavily advised to go to south of Chile because there's a lot of like nature and beautiful stuff there. But yeah, man, so it was a super cool city. The only thing about South America in general is that you do have to be kind of like cautious. You have to be like street smart because especially like for me, who is like the blonde guy, like I super stand out as a foreigner in that way. And then if I'm with the English and stuff, like you want to be kind of like more cautious. Again, it's not like Chile, if anything, is like the like one of the best, like, and like let's say touristy friendly to be visiting. Like I don't imagine to go to I don't know other places, but be not knowing Spanish fluently. I mean, like just coming in as a foreigner completely. So that was the only thing, is that you do kind of want to be like cautious, like with your stuff. You don't want to have your phone out, and stuff like. So that was one aspect that like that was like that, but. Other than that, is like, man, it's like such a big difference. Also, coming to Fernanda's family was such a direct comparison to my family, and how I felt super welcome, where she didn't feel so welcome, like in my family. Because also our people are more complicated to talk with foreigners, and we have people who are just afraid to speak with foreigners and stuff. And she felt very isolated at times. Like, and also being in Ukraine with her those 3 years gave me such a perspective also about our like Eastern European Slavic culture from like the foreigner's perspective, and it's been so important to like, I don't know, it was very cool. And then coming to Chile, like they're very warm people, are very welcoming, and overall, like I find it very like you just want to like, even if if we don't speak the language, man. I was in the tables, I was in family tables with like 10 people around me, and they always try to include me, and everybody's super nice, and I don't know, I had a good time, if anything, for that mindset. Yeah.
Of all the different places that you've been and lived, I imagine especially because you're born where you were born, the food difference has got to be insane, like for your stomach and your taste buds. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Actually, I don't know why is there the chili peppers. They're not really eating the spicy food. I don't know. From somewhere I had that stereotype. In Chile they like this. Well, there is the spicy food, of course, but actually Chile, because it's like next to the ocean, it's actually like mostly there's a lot of seafood actually over there, and they have some like dishes that are similar with Peruvian, and then it's like Peru will do that same dish, but it's like we have, for example, in Ukraine we have the borscht, but then like, for example, I also know people like in Russia, like that live like super far away near Japan, and they also have borscht, but they have some other recipe for it. And other guys I know who live like in Central Russia, and they have another recipe for it. So it's like we would have like different recipes for, and they will also have that same thing where you would have a dish, and then Peru will do it that way, and Chile will do it that way, and then Bolivia will do it some other way. But yeah, the food has been so like I've been pretty friendly. Like I think my body was fine with that. I don't remember having any adventures there, but it was good. It was good. It was seafood, so it was. I like that.
And now you're in the UK, so it's like Sunday roast.
Yeah. With my beans, with English beans.
I fucking love an English breakfast so much, dude. My wife had a dream the other day. She's like, I dreamed that we ended up moving to the United Kingdom. And I was like, I doubt that, but honestly, like, there's worse places. Like, I really, really love England.
That's cool, man. No, like, that was one thing. We're talking about this Ukraine thing, and I will say one positive experience is that this opportunity right now to be here for 3 years. I have a 3 years visa now, and I can extend it for another 2 years. I can be like basically 5 years living in the UK. Like that would have been impossible, because before the conflict, I told you we were trying to do the scholarship to come here, and it was very tough. Like, but it was like but it was it was difficult because it was difficult to come because it was difficult the scholarship, there's of course a lot of competition and stuff, and then or you do like the visa, but then to get a company they'll sponsor you the visa, it's pretty tricky. So the chance to like, that's one thing, is that because like of this war, there was this program created, like it's called like Homes for Ukraine. The only condition is that you have to find a host family in UK that is like willing to host you, and that is like pretty much pure charity in UK, because in Europe, if you host Ukrainians, you get some like money from the government. You can get like, I don't know, 800, 900 euros, so you could look at it from like monetary, I guess, perspective for some people. But here it's like pure charity. You like, as a host family, you don't really get nothing. You just really like are going through a bunch of checkups, and I'm so extremely grateful to our host family that it was like willing to do all of that. And we were researching and asking everybody, and then a friend of another friend has a cousin, and then this cousin has to happen to live in, again, another crazy. But again, maybe it's the manifestation. We were dreaming about London. I remember that New Year in Lviv, in Ukraine, that we met with Fernanda, like when I was supposed to be already abroad, but we didn't. So my plan changed also, because I was half a year preparing to leave one way, and then I did it and it didn't work. And then in like 2 weeks, I had to come up with a new way to go out, like very quickly. And then we meet that New Year, and I remember it was like a tough New Year for us, meeting the 2023 right now, 2022 to 23. And then we saw the London New Year, which was like 2 hours later or something. And we're like, oh, we were really, I feel like we manifested England, man, because we've been like talking about it so much. And then we talk with our friends, and then this host family, we made a video also for them, like explaining who we are. We just want to have a country, like, because that's what we want. We are just two young professional people. We want to do all the standard stuff. We want to get the good life, the house, the family, and we just want like a place where we can do it where like the government doesn't necessarily like directly interfere into your like things, and you can just not bother you. You like, I like that relationship. I pay my rent, which is my taxes, and then I just can be here like working and developing like wonderful relationship. And then that was so incredible that they agreed to host us. In fact, it was November 29th, like last year, on our 1 year anniversary with Fernanda, that we got the news like okay, the family agreed. Like it was because it's a big decision, and it is like a lot of hustle on their side. We didn't have to hustle anything. We just brought the papers. Like the process was so super smooth. And then like they, on the other hand side, they had an officer visit their house. They had to make sure they have a dedicated room. They had to like they worked hard to help us, and it was we're meeting up next weekend, so we keep in touch with them. It's awesome. And and it's been amazing. Now we're trying out to see how life goes in England, but I find a lot of soul here, man. Like I do love US, and we are talking about that if it's not going to be UK, it is most likely going to be US, honestly. Like, and we are constantly comparing also a lot. We shouldn't, they're different cities, but I am subconsciously remembering New York City while living here, because it's also a big city, it's also a metropolis, it's also super busy, lots of things happening. But it has been, I found a lot of soul. Like one thing is, in US, from some certain places, I was missing a little bit of soul, because it's like more new cities. Like anyways, everything is more new, which I love the new stuff. But here is like, for the spiritual side, again, I'm not talking about economy or the politics or how is it going. Like that is like another thing. But like from aesthetic point of view, it's like super beautiful. It's so cozy, dude. Like English villages are so cozy. They're just so super cozy, and I find so much inspiration for music. It's good stuff.
I don't know. If I were gonna live in the UK, I would live basically anywhere but London. Like,
you told me.
But that's just me in general. Like, I fucking hate big cities. Like, there are certain cities that, like, when I go there, I'm like, hey, you know, this is really cool. But I still wouldn't choose to live in any city. I would want to be like at least 30 minutes away from all of the hustle. And London is a fucking shit show. It's just, you know, you're trying to get across, you know, town, and it's like you're walking across this, like, okay, we're gonna take the underground, and then you walk into the underground and it's shut down, and you're like, okay, well, let's get up, and you walk to, you know, fucking, you know, down to another area, and you enter the underground, and you take the underground across, and it's like the distance is like, we literally walked more, you know, to get from train station to train station than to get, you know, if we had just walked directly to where we were going. But the streets are so busy, you can't do that. And don't get me, there's some really cool stuff to see. I mean, I went to, you know, all the, you know, Buckingham Palace, and, you know, looking at Big Ben, and like what's that Abbey that's like
Abbey Road Studios. Yes,
that's all wonderful, but I still wouldn't live there. it's too much.
I know.
Yeah,
I was amazed at that, man. Like I was discovering, sorry, you wanted to say?
No, you're good, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, for me also London was a discovery. So like because I've been, like, my childhood dream was like New York, because I was like growing up on all those American movies and stuff, and like that was my, if anything, like, I don't know, I loved it. But then Fernanda was like more with the London like idea. I didn't like specific. I don't know why I haven't thought about this city, but now that we're here, it makes so much sense. But basically, it's been a discovery also for me. I'm coming to London unbiased. Like, so if you ask me about New York, I'm super biased. I saw too many movies. I'm super biased. I'm gonna tell you that I love it and it's amazing for me, because it has so much sentimental emotion. But London, I was like coming completely like unbiased, and I have to say that I'm having like super good time here, because it doesn't, while it can feel very overwhelming as the city, and especially in the center area, there are like some really fucking cool chill places here. Like we have friends who just bought a house here in this area, and it's north, it's Finsbury Park, so I'm like half an hour by the underground to the center, like 1 hour by bus. But like I go here like into the parks, and it's like, and because most of London is like 2-story buildings, 3-story buildings, it's not very tall, so you always feel the presence of sky. It's always there, and I don't know, it just can feel very, very chill. Like I've been in extremely chill places in London, and I'm like, wait a second, like I'm still here. Like that's crazy, because it's 32 boroughs. You know, it's insane. It's so many boroughs, and every borough you live in, is gonna shape also your reality. Like, and also things change. Like, where we are is like good stuff, but then if you like go, I don't know, half an hour that direction, okay, or 1 hour that direction, okay, it gets a bit more suspicious, you know, and then you go, you know, so it also depends on the area also as well. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's cool.
I don't know. I say in my mind, I'm like, I want like a house in the countryside with like, I want to be able to like piss off my front porch in the morning with like nobody offended by seeing my wiener because they literally like that's that's like my standard for like freedom. Yeah, I can do anything I want here, and no one's gonna know or care or interfere.
Yeah.
Whereas like living in cities, you have to get used to just kind of compromising with the fact that you're around other people who have needs and boundaries also always.
It's true. It also depends, I feel like, on the phase in life also that you're in, and especially, for example, for the family. Like, I also was thinking about this with Fernanda, that I really don't think like if life goes good, because we don't know. Like, we have Canada as our plan B. We do have residents in Canada as a plan B, so we are also considering that. But like, if things go good here, like, and we're like getting that deposit, like initial deposit, you want like 30 to 50 grand deposit to get like a mortgage on the house for 20, 30, 40 years. Like, so like we do imagine that happens, and then we like I don't know if I will also live like in the city specifically. Like, I think it's a healthier environment also but also I know it's your personal thing. I mean, you also grew up in that kind of environment too, you know. I grew up already I grew up like in that Azorna, in that military town, in a small apartment, which I had to be always working with the smaller space. So yeah. And what I get from the city is like, right now I just find it very like kind of, as a creative person, the way like I have to be inspired, like I have to keep being inspired, like that's my like absolute have to, like I need inspiration, like I'm addicted to inspiration, like period, that's for sure. Yep. And this is the like location which provides me like a lot of inspiration, because like it really inspires me to go to these, like I'm going to game dev clubs every month, there's game conference happening, there was a Comic-Con happening, I have my first DJ set coming up here, which is going to be like December 19th. That's going to be so fucking awesome. It's going to be video game soundtrack music, so that's awesome. Then we already have plans like to meet up with these guys from an animation studio in January. Like, I had I was at Warner Brothers working. I had a 1 week work experience at Warner Brothers post-production. Like, you know, I need and I fuel on that. You know, I need these events and like things and like I need it. But then who knows? Like, in 5 years, in 10 years, I could be like, fuck it. I had my dosage. Like, I'm ready to. Like, I don't know, because I love nature as well, Tyler. Like I super share that passion and love for your space and the house and stuff. That's cool.
Trees, you know.
Yeah.
Just I like to be able to like see the stars.
Yeah.
It's a big thing for me. Like I like being able to just like sit in the backyard or like go for a walk at night and like, oh, there's Venus, there's Jupiter, there's like, and I know, you know, a lot about astronomy in general, but like, it's a big thing for me. Like, so if I have to live in a place like, especially Denmark, it was like super fucking depressing, because it's like, not only is there light pollution, but it's also overcast all the time. So like, you just never see the sky.
Right.
So I really value that stuff. Living in Arizona was amazing because you could really, really see the stars there. It's gorgeous.
That's amazing, and that's what's most important, Tyler, is that like you follow your heart. And you want to say?
No, I'm just agreeing with you.
I completely. By the way, here there is also some overcast. Like, it's not as hardcore as in Denmark, but I have to say that I'm testing it. But the summer has been really nice, because I've been like so skeptical. Everybody's like, you're gonna hate it, the weather sucks and it's cloudy every day. But actually, again, I'm just talking about my specific experience and my specific year of 2024. Like, it has been so good. Like, I've been loving so much the weather. And now that November came around, I do admit there was like a couple of like that it's just overcast for a couple of days straight. Now that it's winter time and it's more closer to 0 degrees, I feel like the clouds can't quite like exist in that. Like, they can still exist, but not so many. So every time it's different. But so far I've had a very good time. I love that I don't enjoy when it's too hot, and I don't enjoy it's too cold, and it's kind of like in between. For some people it's a big thing, like the weather is like such a big thing. Like, people don't go to Canada because it's like too cold for them. Like, I wouldn't not live in Canada because of the weather. Like that's for me like the least. For me, there's so many other things like the work and how I feel.
I'll put on more clothes. I'll build a fire. Like, I'll make it.
It's okay.
Yeah.
For me, like, can I live here? How long can I stay? The conditions, like so many other things. So nature was not a big. I mean, and besides also living in Ukraine, in Lviv, in the west of Ukraine, it's super overcast for a long time. So you do get used to that and stuff. And if you remember in my New York days, I was on days off when it was like shitty weather. So because that's when I couldn't work. So I developed some love also. For me, weatherman is like also genres of music, you know. Sunny weather is like the pop music. Everybody loves it. Top 100 charts. Hell yeah. Sunny weather any day. I also love that. That's mainstream. That's good stuff. The cloudy weather is like some kind of like deep house, you know, some ambient tech house, I don't know, some more underground, some more niche genre, you know. And there's different, like also we're learning here in one of the parks, there's different types of clouds, man. There is like the stratus, the cumulus, like some are lower, some are higher, you know. And I don't know, you can become the cloud expert, like, I don't know, here.
I was a meteorologist in the Air Force, so like I'm very familiar with cloud types and stuff, and my wife still does that, so yeah.
Whoa,
alto cumulus standing lenticular clouds are bad for turbulence, and you learn a lot of these things.
Dude, exactly. Like we're just flying, and by the way, coming back from South America to Europe, we were flying through some hardcore clouds there, man, because it was like really shaking the whole airplane. So anyways,
so I guess to kind of get things wrapped up here, because I think we're about 2 hours or so, and I've got to jump at a certain point, but
yes, of course. And I'm sorry, I hope it's okay. I thought you wanted to do 1 hour. Is it okay if it's 2? It was longer.
I don't care if it's 4 hours. It's just that I have work meetings to go to.
No, of course. And I also need to get some stuff done too. And we made it. When we made it full cycle, we basically came to this point. But yeah, you weren't fast.
So, I mean, just in general, like everything that you've been through, gone through, like this entire journey that you've up to this point, because you're not done writing the book of Kyle Misko is not over with. But
yeah,
you know, like what's like a piece of advice or just like something that you would say would help someone else who's going through difficult times?
You know what was really helpful is that for me to know is that like is that I feel like maybe it's all in my head, maybe it doesn't happen, but I feel like if we come back to that universe and that manifesting stuff, like I feel like life ultimately, like if there is a destiny, like ultimately it wants to get you to that point where you like, it wants to get you to the success. Like, I don't know. So like the things I dream about, like it wants to get you there. But the thing is that it's so important. Like, it sounds like super cliche, but actually, like, when it's very difficult, it's actually very important to like kind of keep going, because you do get the reward. Like, and I do feel like in life, for whatever hardcore things happens, like there is ultimately like the good times are always coming up, even if they're coming up a bit later on. So I don't know. I feel like in life in general, whatever like sensible goal you set for yourself, if you just like continue persisting to get really good at this. It's like an inspiration figure for me at some point was, maybe some people don't like this guy, but Gordon Ramsay, and he inspired me in a way that not, of course, like he's very, of course, extroverted and stuff, but what I took out is that he's the master of both. For example, he's the master of the kitchen and he's master of the restaurant, so he knows all of the knives, he knows which knife to use for which kind of meat, he knows like which kind of food goes, so he knows very well the kitchen. So in the music world, that transliterates into like really knowing your equipment and really knowing the genres and really having that proficiency like as a professional, like in that like composition or whatever it is, or copy paste like any art over here, like anything. And then second is he knew the restaurant, so he knew like that it's how much it costs the rental over there, how much is the space, who are the clients, how many clients he can expect, in depending on which area, which kind of clients will come in. Cuban restaurant will do good here because there is, I don't know, a lot of people from Central America living here, like whatever, like understanding like the business of it. So it's like, so ultimately, I think that's what you want. Like as a person who is pursuing something, you want to like understand both of those aspects, like let's say the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain, the creative side and the technical. Like, so, and then I feel like if you're like going and pursuing that, and you're really like, even in the shitty moments, like keep it going, like because that's when it's difficult, because everybody wants to be there for success, you know, but nobody wants, like, what about the tough times, you know, like that's the real test. Like, and actually the tough times, like the shitty times you're going to have, like in your career, like actually I believe they're like more important than like the success, because if you think about it, like what can you anyways learn on success? Like not so much, right? You succeeded, so you did everything well, so there's not much to learn, but like kind of like look at it in a way that like for sure, like to do what you really want to do and to make money on it, like that's gonna be a tough battle for sure. Like, so of course, like, you know, that battle, like it's gonna be a tough one, but also like persistence, I don't know, man, and just going in that direction, and trying to build your environment that also supports that. Like that's why I was explaining, like the partner is very important. The partner super influences your perspective. You know, you visit a new place and your partner says, oh, what a shitty place, and you're like, oh, well, it's kind of shitty. Or your partner says, oh, it's an amazing place, and you're like, yeah, it's an amazing place, you know. So like the partner very much, you know, influences that. And then so if you are looking for that, like, you know, understanding that friends super much matter. Again, like if the friends are just like chilling out and like it's good, like you also want to chill out. If they're like you know, I've been like working towards surrounding myself with like very like inspirational people. You, Tyler, is also one of those people that inspires me, like, and I want to like keep rolling also, thanks to you, man. So it's like you actually super much helped me and support me, like last year when it was also like, that was a really tough time, like leaving Ukraine and then looking for a new home. We lived in Montenegro because we couldn't stay in EU, because anyways, another bullshit story. So but then anyways, like it was really important. Then the friends, and then that job, and then that location, I don't know. So like now here, like in London, what I like specifically, and in New York also, and like that's what I love personally about the big cities. Like not everybody can have their own thing, but like for me, it definitely inspires me seeing actually a lot of people doing very good. Like I'm knowing people who are like buying houses like in London or in the area, and are getting, and I'm like, okay, I also want that. I don't know. So kind of going towards your goal, and then while trying to be mindful of those things. I don't know. Nobody says that you have to, like, at some points in life you can only have the job good and then not the other ones, or just the location is good, or the partner is great but the job sucks. Maybe the job is great, the partner is great, the friends suck, and the location sucks. Maybe the location is amazing and everything else sucks. So, but I don't know. Like, that's really it, I think. And then it will happen. And then the universe is like, okay, dude, I see you putting the effort. I think it should work out, but I don't know. What do you think, Tyler? I don't know.
I think that I mean, everybody has a different path and a different way of looking at it, but I mean, your way of dealing with problems has obviously gotten you as far as you have. I mean, there's a lot of people from the same town as you, or the same background, or similar, you know, in a different place or whatever, and me too, who could be faced with exactly the same challenges and maybe succeed in a completely different way, or not make it out. And so whatever it is, I mean, to be like really general about it instead of like very specific advice, like do this, it should be like, I would say, be open-minded and hopefully believe that you kind of started off your piece of advice with something similar to this, but like that, when you're going through something that's really difficult, right, the reward or the payoff is directly proportionate to the sacrifice. That's not true in every aspect of life, but like overall, it seems to be.
Oh man, yeah, I'm with you also over there. It's and one thing I will say that also helped me a lot. That's the last thing I will add. Is that about these two aspects is like, of course, the persistence and stuff, and doing something about it. Not only dreaming about it, of course, and doing mini steps, but also like I have to say, what helped me a lot, man, is that like I really love the life. Like I really, really genuinely like super appreciate it, and I got that from my grandmother, from my mother, like directly, because they are people who like really, really loved life. And since when I was a kid, I was like really, as much as possible, like appreciating like every single day, because I know that for us to like be born is like, for us to be like even born here and to be on this like earth and living, it's like insane fucking chance, honestly, because for birth to happen in 9 months, it's like, it's insane. Like so many things, millions of things have to happen. And I even kind of took a step further, and I was like, fuck, like for us to live, like the sun has to be in space and it has to be shining, and then the earth has to be spinning all the time if it stops at least for a second, and so many like chemical, like nature elements like that take for us to be alive. And then you add on top of that the layer of like the human existing, meaning the heart has to beat. I remember when I was a kid and I realized the heart has to keep beating for like 80, 90 years. Holy shit. Like, and then like, of course, then your organs, I don't know, start to wear out and stuff because and it has to keep beating, it has to keep working, you know? So I'm like very, very, very grateful like to life. And I also realized that actually it's not so long, because like the 70 years, 80 years, like in New York, I actually made a couple of friends for like over 70 years old. Like I have a friend, he's like 75 and he lives in Czech Republic, and he goes to like he does mountain climbing. So I talked so many interesting things with this guy, this guy from Croatia who was my landlord also. He left in Yugoslavian war, and he told me with this guy from Armenia, like I can remember like a couple of people like from older generation, and I asked them like, guys, what do you feel like? You are now 60 years old, like 70 years old, how do you feel, man? And then they are really nice people. Like we didn't have any, like we were talking very open-mindedly, and then it was not like, oh, you're younger, we're like, you're above our league. Like they were very down to earth. And yeah, they said like one thing they said is like, time, dude, it's like when you're 60, you're like, fuck, I just have like 20 years, I don't know, or like 30 years, like, and that feels like it's faster passing and you want to get more things done and stuff. And like, and I realized that it is super, super, super precious. And in my downtimes, when I can't find the fuel to keep persisting on something, like on the path like of the work, I find my fuel like trying to remember that as much as I can, like that, those conversations I had with them, and that like essential just like love for the life and everything, you know, every day we breathe, and that's incredible. And the trees have to exist to give oxygen, you know, and like so many things have to happen. And yeah, man, so that's great. And in Maine, in US, I met a couple of like friendly spiritual friends also, and we also talked a lot about, yeah, that it's super rare and it's amazing to live the life. So yeah, man, that's cool. Like, let's do it. I don't know what is there, like afterlife, many universes, whichever, like there's many ideas on what happens after, but the only thing, and I don't care, like some people are like, oh, this is Matrix, this is simulation, you live in Matrix. Like for me, it doesn't matter. For me, a Matrix simulation, like all I know is that like I for sure got this life, like this reality, and if it's a Matrix or not Matrix, we wake up in some other world, like that is for me right for now is irrelevant, because I don't know what's over there, and all I can do is just like make the best from what I have right now in my life. And I just only know that I can like keep waking up. Like now I know my body is good. My heart, like I hope, fingers crossed, everything keeps going, and I can get to the old age and then finish that cycle over there. So that's another thing, Tyler. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. I really appreciate all the time, and just hearing your story. I hope that it inspires other people. So let's just put it out into the world and see what happens. The song you are hearing is called The Perpetual Beat Machine by, of course, our dear friend Kyle Misko. I can't thank him enough for coming on the show and sharing his story. It's been something we've been talking about for a long time now. We met at Gamescom, maybe 2023, so quite a long time ago. And he's just fantastic. I was immediately kind of enamored with like everything this dude had been through to get to where he is. And hey, if you're out there and you're making a game and you're looking for a badass musician who can do a whole lot of different stuff to compose soundtracks for your game or whatever, his website is kylemisko.com, and that link will be in the episode notes. I don't have anything else to say, so I love you. God love you. Stay